Hey guys. This is part 12 of What If Naruto Was an Introvert. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 56, Revealing the Final Cards. Very well. He clapped his hands. You can come down now. The 3 genin assigned to him were not the crop of the crop, and they were either the lowest of the low. They were the epitome of average fused with even more average. They knew how to launch a kunai, how to disappear in the ground. It was the requisite to passing the academy, being able to do the Awagakure no Jutsu, and they had the basics all down. They were also 11, and the fact he was barely 4 years older than them changed little. They looked at him with the same stern gaze they'd look at a military instructor. It was sort of nerve-wracking, having 3 pairs of eyes stare at him with the utmost seriousness and respect, with also a healthy dose of fear. He had no doubt the ways of the Awagakure Academy differed from those of Konoha's, and stern teaching appeared to be one of those tiny diversities. Kawashi, Akaishi and Sekeigen, right? He asked once more, to make sure he had their names right. The 3 of them nodded curtly. Whoever had given them those names had to have little fantasy. Many in Awagakure gave names depending on the type of stones or rocks that caught their fancies, and so it was that black stone, red stone and limestone came to be his genin, his average run-of-the-mill genin, who looked at him with a worried expression etched on their faces. Kawashi and Akaishi both had dark eyes, but while Kawashi's hair was black and shoulder-length, Akaishi's instead stood out as ashen gray and buzz-cut short. Sekeigen had gray eyes on the other hand, and bright green hair that descended in curls all the way to his shoulders. That was a fun thing actually. Out of the 3, the female kunoichi of the team was Akaishi, who appeared more masculine than Sekeigen. Albeit, if any of them spoke something more than yes, sensei or no, sensei, he'd actually get somewhere faster. So you can walk on solid surfaces. Can you walk on liquid ones? All 3 of them shook their heads while chorusing no, sensei. It was somewhat creepy, as if they had wires or something attached to their limbs so that they could move mechanically in rhythm. You know I don't bite, right? He asked once more, only to receive cryptic stares back. It was as if they didn't believe him when he said that. Snorting, he rolled his eyes. Fine then, I do bite sometimes, but not little genin. They said you eat your enemies alive, Kawashi meekly said, before receiving a strong elbow blow to the stomach by Akaishi. No, he doesn't, Akaishi hissed out as she gripped tightly on Kawashi's shoulder. Now apologize to sensei for believing that. Stop making a scene, Sekeigen spat out, holding on to his strained expression of seriousness. Are you 3 actually afraid of me? Naruto blinked. Well, that was an option after all. I see. Then how about we go and have something for lunch? I'll offer. He said something, right? He didn't say someone, Kawashi whispered to Akaishi. Shut up, Akaishi hissed. They'll pull us back in the orphanage if he doesn't take us on as genin, so smile. You know I can hear you pretty well. Naruto deadpanned, watching with a bit of amusement as the 3 genin straightened out the next moment. We're deeply sorry, sensei, all 3 of them said at the same time. Naruto smiled, his gaze lingering over their slightly scared forms. He could see the beads of sweat slowly descending their temples as their neck hair rose. He chuckled then, watching them squirm as he took a step forward. Starting today will be Team 9. The 3 swallowed nervously. Team 9? I'm the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Better the enemy knows who they're going against if we ever cross paths with them. Naruto nodded sagely. But Iwagakure's teams are rock-named, Kawashi meekly said, only for Akaishi to slam yet another elbow in his sides. Shut up, the girl smiled then. It's a beautiful name, sensei. I really like it. No. Naruto frowned. No hitting one another. He took another step forward and then ruffled Kawashi's hair. The boy actually gasped before closing his eyes in fright at the gesture, only opening them for a thin crack when he realized that no, he wasn't being beheaded. You are all part of this team equally, and there will be no hitting one another. You will face hardships and missions together, thus it is imperative you learn to trust each other's backs and work in harmony. That's nice, Akaishi murmured. But it's not how it works here, sensei. Naruto frowned. The teams are placed together depending on their ranks and advance on it. If one of us lags behind, he'll be cut off and replaced. If one of us becomes stronger, he'll replace one from another team. The Jinchuriki smiled. Well, then that's not going to happen to my team. You're all stuck together, and I'll make sure you all get strong together. Then he said in a lower voice, or I will just have to make sure they never find your bodies. He winked as the 3 genin paled, before bursting out in a fit of laughter. Just joking, guys, can't you take a little joke on the side? Naruto sighed as he watched the 3 visibly maintain their stone-faced attitude after that. To think he'd be stuck doing D-ranks for a while inside the village. Sure, the excuse was to acclimatize with the villagers, but the truth was simply that the Iwagakure shinobi kept him under strict surveillance while Oinoki tried to convince his granddaughter to follow through with the marriage. It had been quite the explosive meeting. It had also ended in a predictable way with the girl running away in a sulky mood. That hadn't bothered him at all. The less he worried about the situation, the better it was. Let's go take our first D-rank, he said then with a bright smile. What dangerous adventure will we face today? Washing clothes for an elderly lady? Painting a wall for a lazy man? Can't you feel it in the air, the smell of boredom? Kawashi tried to say something, but Akaishi elbowed him once more. I saw that. Naruto chided the girl. Is it that difficult to stop hitting him? Sorry, sensei. Akaishi murmured. Sekeigen meanwhile mouthed towards Akaishi. Painting? Is he? He proceeded to twirl his index finger to the side of his head. Akaishi shrugged. Better than the orphanage, she mouthed back. Hi. Naruto whispered in a low voice. I can hear you. He murmured out in a low hiss. Really? Talking behind your sensei's back. You, Kuro-chan. Kawashi stood up tight and tensed the moment Naruto called him. Why yes. What's the typical D-rank in Iwagakure about? Sensei, I wouldn't know very well about typical, but we patrol a mountain range for a week, or we send relief supplies to some village cut off by the snow. Sekeigen said crisply. If we're lucky, we just have to check the magma tunnels are clean of remains that could clog the pipes. And what about the day-to-day jobs for the civilians? Iwagakure is a shinobi village. For there to be someone who isn't a shinobi, wouldn't it be better if he went elsewhere to live? Kawashi answered, shyly holding his head low. Naruto shrugged. You're telling me there isn't a single civilian? Well, of course there are a few, Akaishi said, but nothing more than a handful. When the Yondaime struck in the war, he took away more than 500 shinobi, who in turn had families or loved ones. The Tsuchikage was forced to surrender and walk on their bodies to reach the diplomatic table. The girl looked at him warily. He smiled at her, and gestured for her to continue. There are a lot of people who bear a grudge for that. Tsuchikage-sama began conscription immediately after the war, and whereas Konoha rested on the laurels of peace, Iwagakure clawed with its very nails out of its situation to get back to its former height of power and surpass it. A hand clammed down gently on Akaishi's head. Good girl, good girl. Naruto nodded sagely. The patriotic speech was very well done. I give it a 7 out of 10. Why not a 10? Sekeigen asked. They began entering the village proper, a kilometer away from the training grounds, talking about the correct ways to bring emphasis to a speech or another. You! A shrill voice rose then, interrupting Naruto's point, one he was completely inventing on the spot. He turned and smiled brightly, opening his arms wide. My delicate Rose! Kuratsuchi was in her Iwagakure Chunin armor, tightly clenching her right hand around a piece of parchment. What is the meaning of this? Why, it's a poem of how much love I have for you! Naruto exclaimed back, holding a hand towards his heart. Don't you love me too, my honey puff? A crowd began to gather on the rooftops and the nearby streets, their gazes on the couple. Small murmurs broke out, as a few females looked with a glint of mischief in their eyes at the scene. I'm going to kill you one day! Kuratsuchi snarled, taking a step forward. Not in front of the impressionable children, I hope. He held on to his plastered fake smile all the way, until she was right in front of him. Her face red with rage, her eyes narrowed down to slits. She wasn't actually the prime example of a delicate woman. You're taking too many liberties, she hissed. Naruto just kept his smile up and slowly moved a hand to push a lock of Kuratsuchi's hair back behind her ear, while bringing his mouth near the side of her face, in what could be a romantic way of showing affection. And you can do nothing about it, little caged bird filled with weaknesses. His voice was low, his tone light. It still served to make Kuratsuchi's back stand ramrod straight, however, as chills ran across her spine from the tone of threat in Naruto's voice. Those with power rule, those without obey. I shall tear this world asunder and start a new one. You can follow in my shadow, or die in my fire, so. He clapped his hands on her shoulders and moved his face away from her, his eyes shining for a single instant a deep dark crimson. My delicate rose, could you truly not stand another moment away from me? I am truly sorry. We should have dinner later then, us two beneath the light of the moon, with candles and a picnic basket. You certainly know a most romantic spot, do you not? His left arm was now circling her neck, while his right moved in a semicircular way gesturing towards the horizon. Kuratsuchi breathed in deeply. Yes, I do. I am busy, however, so, I'll talk with your grandfather about this. Naruto smiled again. I'm sure he'll free you up right away. Kuratsuchi could only smile back forcefully. You're spoiling me. Well, I would be a horrible fiancé if I didn't at least try. Then he cupped her chin with his right hand, and gently kissed the girl on her lips, a quick peck, nothing more. I'll see you tonight, Databayo. He then turned to his genin. Now follow me, we're going to take a mission and do it on the double. I have a date with my sweetie waiting, and you can't make girls wait, you know? Kuratsuchi watched the Kyubi Jinchuriki walk away with his genin, a bunch of stuttering brats, for a moment. Kuratsuchi closed her eyes and took one more long breath. The piece of paper in her hand turned to shreds and burned, a gust of flames coming out of her throat to remove all evidence of its existence. Kuratsuchi tried to hold her face tightly in control. A good shinobi always knew when to kill its heart. Yet, as she touched her lips, the only thing she wished for was to retch. She had been glad when she had heard the news of the boy's death. Then he had popped out, from nowhere, one night. Her grandfather had ordered her without any subtle hints to make sure things went smoothly. A kunoichi did missions of that type only with their personal approval. She didn't have to like it, but this was the only thing she couldn't refuse. It was for the good of Iwagakure, of its people. Only an Uzumaki could hold the Kyubi. She didn't know why, but it was the one thing her grandfather had insisted on. It was the reason the first Hokage had married an Uzumaki. It was the reason Yuzushi Ogakure died away in the night. In the end, everything revolved around the tailed beasts. She jumped, letting her feet stick to the surface of a mountain, before running off towards its peak. She needed time to think away from the bustling village and far from the monster in human skin. That smile could not be human to begin with. She knew the Jinchuriki hid something. If only she could find out what it was all about, especially before the day of the wedding. What truly worried her was the way her grandfather seemed genuinely to like the boy. Her father remained deaf to her pleads too, but then again he had always been the wimp in the family. Mother had to confess to him to begin with. With those thoughts in mind, Kuratsuchi also thought about where to have the romantic date. Maybe near the garbage disposal pits? It would be extremely romantic, she supposed. Michiraka, her hands hurt. Her chest hurt. Her breathing was ragged. Her hair cut and unkempt filled with lice tortured her enough, if the whips of the overseers didn't suffice. A red-haired man in a similar condition to her walked past holding a load of coal on his back. She gripped on the hemp rope again, feeling her blisters open up once more as dried blood left the place on her palms to new one. She had bled more than once already, and the pain was nothing new. She had to wonder why she fought on. She could just dwindle herself with hunger and die, rather than keep on working in these conditions. Deep within the belly of the mountain, she knew escape was all but possible, yet she still dreamed on, even though all of her dreams turned out to be lies and everything of her life was in shattered pieces. Move it with that cart, a guard snarled, and she ground her teeth as she pulled. She knew the whip would come down regardless of her effort, but if she tried hard enough, then maybe it would actually make the cart move faster and end her ordeal quickly. The whip came down and pain blossomed on her right shoulder. She screamed as she fell on the ground, clutching the spot where the rag she called cloth was now soaking the blood of yet another wound. Her feet begged for mercy. Her body cried out for the agony to cease. But she still stood back up and took another step forward. She wasn't going to fall down on the ground and die, not until she had her revenge. On that man, who forced her to confess to a crime she had never done. On that man, who did not believe her and condemned her. On that man, who brought her to this place of hell. Most of all, however, her hatred was directed towards the sole reason she was there. Naruto Uzumaki. It was his entire fault. She had been stupid to think otherwise. He had torn apart her family. He had been the reason she had been moved somewhere else than the simply civilian prison. He had to die to atone for his sins. Sakura Haruno. I hate you, Ami bitch. Sakura growled. No one has ever been banned from the Hibi. And you managed it. It's only because the owner was a friend of my parents that we didn't end up in the Konoha prison. Ami didn't answer, she just nursed her cracked jaw. And don't look at me like that. You started it. It's only natural I would finish it by giving you the lesson you deserved. Sakura. Shizen chided the pink-haired Chunin. You broke her jaw in 5 points, then ripped her tongue out before her teammates could intervene. She's lucky I didn't eat that tongue of hers, then again, I did smash it to a pulp before they could get it back. Sakura laughed with a cute giggle. That will teach Ami bitch here about doing something stupid like bad-mouthing my love again. She could press charges. Shizen insisted. Which is why I'm here. Sakura smiled sweetly. If she does, I'll make sure to save a special brand of poison just for her. I'm sure I can smile to the judge and get out in a couple of months. Then I just have to find her again, or wait for her. She turned to look at Ami. And well, random food poisoning kills even the best of us sometimes. Shizen gazed at her apprentice with a tired stare. You told this to me so I'll make you an accomplice if I go through with this, Shizen Shusho. Sakura clapped her hands after that. And they won't let you be an eyewitness anyway. Ami whined pitifully. Now, Ami bitch. Sakura shook her head. You have to understand that I'm not actually going to kill you at first. The poison will be slow acting. You'll feel cold, like being in the middle of an ice cube, and then hot as if you were being burned alive. You'll feel as if someone ripped your skin apart, and then gnawed on your bones. I'm sure that you'll commit suicide before it even starts inflaming your nerves or the poison begins to pop your eyeballs out. The whines grew stronger. There was a knock at the door of the hospital room. So listen well, Ami. Sakura whispered towards the girl. I'm not a little girl anymore, and I don't give a damn about Sasuke. Get it straight in your head that I dislike people who call me a traitor. I do not betray ever. Be it my village or my love, I'm never going to betray them. Her right hand clamped tightly on the girl's shoulder. So don't you ever dare insinuate it again. Then she turned and smiled brightly as the Hokage and 2 Anbu entered. Sakura. Tsunade said firmly. Would you mind following the 2 Anbu outside? Of course not, Hokage-sama. She cheerfully said before waving goodbye to Ami. See you later, Ami-chan. I'm glad we solved our problems. Then she left, holding on to her plastic and fake smile until the Hokage left the room a few minutes later, her arms crossed in front of her bountiful chest. She wondered what the woman had eaten to get it that big. Tsunade's gaze was firm and steely. She will not press charges. You are technically free to go. Yes. This is why I'm ordering you to report immediately to the Hokage Tower tomorrow morning. She thrust a scroll in Sakura's hands. With this on. She frowned. I left. There are 2 types of persons who enter Anbu. Those who are strong enough to enter it and those that the village wishes to hide away for whatever reason. Tsunade hissed close to Sakura's face. You have become the latter. What if I refuse, Hokage-sama? Sakura retorted calmly. Then I'd put you back in the genin ranks and have you assigned a babysitter until the day you die of old age, making sure you will never be promoted. Tsunade smiled. And then I order a search of all things that belong to Naruto Namikaze, and have them delivered to his last living relative. Sakura's eyes narrowed to fissures. Who dares? Naruto was an orphan, there is no way. You think I will tell you after this little show you just did? Tsunade retorted with a snort. Take the mask, do your missions away from the public sight, and maybe I'll tell you one day when you stop being an emotional wreck. What? No psychiatrist? Stabbing people is therapy enough for some, and I don't think you'd actually volunteer for a mind check, would you? You can always drug and force me into one. Sakura retorted, her eyes trailing towards the 2 Anbu. Konoha has enough shinobi tied down with the war against Oto's beasts, and you've got combat practice against those to boot. I'm sending you to the land of rice fields. You survive, and I'll tell you who Naruto's relative is. Sakura gripped tighter on the scroll. I want permission to hunt Itachi Uchiha. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. I don't need an avenger. I don't need to risk my neck. You can always call me unfit for duty. You don't because you need me. Tsunade exhaled slowly. When was it that the title of Hokage went down the drain? Sakura giggled. Can I go now, Hokage-sama? Tsunade nodded, holding a half-narrowed glare as Sakura left without hurry, as if everything was fine. Sakura hummed to herself as she returned home, before twirling a kunai and sticking straight through the missing nin profile picture of Itachi Uchiha, which stood among many other papers on his skills and techniques. which now completely covered the entire surface of her room's walls. A bundle of clothes Naruto had left behind was on her bed, neatly piled together to form a body pillow. She stretched for a moment before opening the scroll and summoning from within it an Umbi uniform. The mask they had assigned her was wolf, apparently. She snorted. She would never forget that the Hokage had sent Naruto on that mission. Eventually, after Itachi, she would have her revenge on that woman too. She was still useful for the moment, however, because she needed to know who dared to claim being a last relative of Naruto. Depending on whom it was, she'd just have to dig another tomb in the backyard. Naruto was going to need company after all, even though his tomb was empty. And family always sticks together, right? She muttered, sitting on the bed and then hugging the body pillow closer. Family is really important, she croaked out. Images of blood, claws, and of teeth rending flesh buzzed through her head as she closed her eyes. Her mother's screams came to her ears, pleading her to stop. No, family is important. You don't attack family, Sakura muttered, pressing her face tightly against Naruto's clothes. Please, she whimpered. Stop torturing me like this. Her eyes were dry now, too dry to shed tears. I didn't do it, it was brigands. Her neck felt warm. It was bandits, thieves, their bodies were rotting. Sakura murmured. Not me, not me, not me. She screamed in the pillow, the buzzing noise in her ears growing stronger by the second. Sakura? Sakura, stop! I didn't kill them. I didn't kill them. This is a bad dream. The smell of blood on the hospital floor was overpowering. The taste of flesh in her mouth felt so sweet. The weak were prey. Sakura! No! Eyes glazed over in death. They dried up. They became like those of the dead fishes at the market stalls. Take her in another room. I didn't kill them. I didn't. Why is your mind saying the opposite then? Dad! Moem! Please wake up! She cried. Please wake up! What is real? A male voice whispered to her ear. What is false? The voice asked, gently nibbling her earlobe. I can show you, little blossom. Hands gently touched her neck. I've been waiting for this moment. The voice added. Come, open your eyes, I'm waiting. Sakura's eyes shot open. It was the middle of the night, and her entire body was flush with sweat. Her breathing ragged, she threw herself off the bed and into the bathroom, where she retched, holding on to the toilet seat as if it were an anchor of safety. She shakily stood back up. Her hand went to move the hair away from her face, and as she gazed at her reflection in the mirror, an eye, from her shoulder, blinked back at her with its accusing yellow retina. She screamed, but she didn't wake up. Kakuzu Deidara was a rambling psychopath, a bomb-strapped lunatic, and the last person he would have wanted in his team. Since Haiden had kicked the bucket, however, he was the one assigned as his replacement. He would have rather worked with Sasori, or not worked at all and gone bounty hunting, but he had a quota to meet. The fact the Three Tails had suddenly appeared, and then began charging through the nations without a care in the world for what it tore along its path, hadn't buzzed him much. His eyes narrowed as he watched the Awagakure missing Nin bomb the creature from up high. Avoiding the concentrated jets of water and the coral formations that the Biju generated, the shell of the tortoise-like beast was hard to crack, but Deidara did an excellent job in tiring it out. Oichai zombie guy! It's your turn now! Deidara screamed from high above his clay bird, as Kakuzu growled. He'd kill the man, if not for the fact the resulting explosion would probably get him too. He flexed his fingers in familiar hand seals, and then he waited. The ground began to tremble and shake, before giant roots erupted from the dirt and tied down on the Three Tails' body. Branches sprouted leaves as the Mokuton began to seep at the chakra of the Biju, weakening it. This is actually too easy, it lacks explosion, Deidara grumbled. How can you call this a work of art? Shut up, Kakuzu retorted sharply. Just get on with the job. Deidara huffed, before jumping down from his flying explosive clay bird. Twirling in midair, the Awagakure ex-ninja brought his right hand up with both middle finger and index, before hissing out. Katsu! The bird dived down, its size increasing drastically. The next instant, a humongous explosion scorched the air as the Three Tails screamed in agony. Its shell cracked open. Kakuzu hardened his skin before the pressure reached him, closing his eyes as it harmlessly passed him by. You, who wield one of Father's powers, don't understand. Kakuzu's eyes widened. He looked around for a brief moment, but the owner of the voice seemed, ignorant fool, toying with things beyond your comprehension. Could it be the Three Tails? Greed is your quest, is it not? The beast chuckled. It chuckled and its eyes gazed at him with something akin to understanding. It is something I can relate to. Kakuzu did not reply, but with a pulse of chakra, he tightened the shackles of Mokutan around the tailed beast. It is useless. I speak to your very soul. I am greed, and you will do, I suppose. The Takigakure missing knee narrowed his eyes before in front of him he watched the three tails explode. A wave of pure teal chakra erupted from the entire body of the beast, twisting in midair before crashing down in front of him. Kakuzu's hands went up to protect his face as waves of water poured all around him. He jumped up, making a hand seal to stand on a wooden platform, when a concentrated ray of water sliced through it and sent him back in the bubbling liquid. Spinning his body, he unleashed a wave of rock the moment his right hand touched the ground. A hand formed with chakra pierced through the water around him, slamming into his chest as seals and ink slowly traced over his body. My name is Isabu. The chakra spoke as it poured into him, into his every pore. I am the greed that all needs and all desires. Together we shall acquire all that is possible. A second hand slammed into him, soon followed by a body appearing from the waves. It seemed human, even though it was not. What are you doing? Kakuzu hissed out, trying to grab at the chakra to no avail. He could but watch as the chakra mass merged with him. This isn't enough. I want more. Rob that woman. I'll conquer them, kill them all and loot their corpses. Nice pendant. Now it's mine. She's coming with me. She's mine. This is my food. Go find yours. How does it feel? The voice was raucous as it came from within his very head. His 5 hearts thrummed at the same time, forcing Kakuzu down on his knees from the sheer agony that covered his entire body. You are lucky to have 5 hearts. A lesser man would have died. Get out of my body! Kakuzu snarled. It is mine, now. No, it's mine! He snarled, punching the ground as the water dropped down lifelessly. Oichai! What happened to the 3 tails? Did he make a run for it? Daidora's unnerving voice reached his ears, as the blonde-haired man neared. Get out! Kakuzu hissed. Out! Out! Leave my body! Now! Aha, you alright, zombie guy? You do not command me. Isabu's chakra slowly began to push out of Kakuzu's body. Like flames licking his flesh, they moved. You've gone deaf with age, zombie-chan? The Takigakure ex-ninja turned his murderous gaze towards Deidara, before throwing a punch at the idiot's face. The punch connected squarely with the man's face, caving in the skull and shattering the bones. Blood sprayed out from the beheaded corpse of Deidara, who fell on the ground limp. Kakuzu exhaled, and then inhaled. The corpse glowed of a bright light, before detonating with a tremendous force. Kakuzu shielded his face with his arms, as corals formed all over his body and flesh. The resulting explosion tore apart the landscape, leaving behind a giant hole in the ground the size of a small water basin. Exhaling, Kakuzu's eyes opened to him standing atop a giant coral spire, in the middle of the otherwise destroyed area. Let us cooperate, for the moment. Why? The hunter now becomes the hunted. Your pain wishes to conquer the world, his greed is second only to his blindness, and I need a body to avoid the statue. Your body will do. So you're a bastard? Kakuzu snarled, opening his right hand as corals began to emerge from it. What do you want? There is someone I need to reach, someone I wish to test. Kakuzu's eyes closed as an image flashed briefly in his eyes. I don't trust you. I don't need to be trusted. Will you cooperate, or must I tear apart your hearts from the inside? I'm taking your power as payment. Kakuzu growled. He took a step forward as a coral bridge formed to guide him beyond the crevice formed by Deidara's explosion. The Iwagakure shinobi is still alive. Let him go, Kakuzu said, eyeing the horizon. We have somewhere else to be, don't we? Then he jumped, leaving behind the devastated area as he made his way towards the west, beyond Konoha, beyond the Fire Country, and towards Rock Country. Let us see how much you've grown, Kakuzu whispered. Naruto Namikaze. Sasori, the smell of resin, of wood, of fire, the smell of oil and the ingredients for his poisons, and then, another smell in the mix, a foreign one that did not belong to his own. He quietly advanced, holding his fingers ready on his chakra strings. It is a nice place you have here, Sasori. The voice spoke slowly, taking care to enunciate each word one after the other. A nice hidden spot, but you always had some problems hiding from me, did you not? Sasori's eyes narrowed. Toby stood in the middle of his workshop, his mask showing only one of his eyes, the crimson Sharingan. The army is not ready yet, Sasori remarked. It still needs time. Would you tell the same to Orochimaru, perhaps? Toby asked, his voice filled with an underlying tone he did not like at all. What are you implying? Nothing. Toby shook his head. But someone is missing from home, and I would very much have him back. He has the box after all. Kabuto went rogue? Sasori asked. He actually was a spy. He always was. Toby shrugged. I just hoped he was yours rather than his. The cloaked man looked to the ceiling. Orochimaru betrayed Akatsuki. I am here for the army, to bring it to the boss. It isn't ready, Sasori remarked. It needs to be completed. Then complete it, Toby snarled. What do you miss? Sasori snorted, before walking forward and pointing his gaze towards an empty mannequin. The boy Temujin. He refuses to continue extracting the jello from the stone unless he can attest the safety of the children from his land. Can't you brainwash him and be done with his temper tantrum? Toby replied, tapping his right foot on the ground. The jello interferes with chakra techniques. Sasori grumbled as he stepped next to a desk littered with parts of puppets. I could remove the stone he has in his body, but then the entire castle of cards would crumble down. Fine then, Toby said. Bring the boy here. I'll show him where the children are. Try and keep him safe, Toby, Sasori mumbled. You wouldn't want to fail Leader-sama right now that we're so close to victory, would you? Close to victory? Toby chuckled. Last I checked we are still missing tailed beasts. All is proceeding according to plan. Sasori nodded sagely. Toby inwardly smiled. Of course, everything was proceeding according to his plan. He wasn't Orochimaru of the Sannin for no reason, after all. Danzo Shimura was alive. That simple line of thought cracked through his decades of repressing emotions, and as a broken dam explodes in fragments, so too did his composure disappear as a low and throaty chuckle escaped his dried lips. He was alive. The Yami of Shinobi was alive. Someone was feeding him soup apparently, and he was still alive. He's waking up, a male voice said. Really? The female voice that came next was happy, he supposed. Where was he? What had happened to the Zero Tails? Who was the man? He tried to open his eyes, blearily taking in a shack and two figures. One was Amaru, but the other, was that man's skin blue? You're lucky I was nearby, the man stated plainly. If Samahata hadn't been whining about strange chakra, I wouldn't have found either of you. He tried to put the man into focus, but he failed and thus, he closed his eyes once more. Don't worry, the man said to the fussing Amaru. He'll wake up when he rests a bit more. I hope so, Kisame-san. To those words, Danzo Shimura fell asleep. It was not a restful slumber at all. Chapter 57, The Wails of the Mute Snake. Blood covered everything. Crimson pools fell from the ceiling. Rivers of boiling red fluid erupted from the cracks of his mind. Geysers of the liquid shattered the walls. Blood seeped beyond the chains, beyond the seals and the ink. It dribbled and it pushed, until it could no longer advance. In his own mind, Naruto could very well drown. He did not think as he ran ahead in a flash of light, tearing apart the ground behind him as blades of wind poured from his limbs towards the Tsuchikage. The cube of bright light, the technique passed down through the Tsuchikage line, flickered to life and detonated, destroying one of his clones as he jumped in midair. He brought his legs close to his chest, spinning wildly as the black mantle on his back erupted with kunai and barbed wire intertwined with chains. The ground trembled as the kunai detonated, explosive seals written on their surface. Fire chakra ran across the surface of his barbed chains. As he pulled himself closer to the Tsuchikage, small cubes appeared around him, disintegrating to dust the chains and slicing past his left leg. He ignored the gaping wound, as crimson chakra poured out to close it a second later. His eyes shone crimson and purple, as a Rasengan tore through the air to crash against a conical dust release. Onoki still did not move, even as the barbed chains surrounded him with their fiery appearance. Enclosing him in a furnace of steel, Naruto poured wind chakra soon after the fire one, and the flames turned cerulean as their heat glassed the very ground. A metal dome now stood in place of the chains and the barbed wire, yet in but an instant it fragmented away. Is this the best you can do? Onoki remarked dryly, as 1,000 of small marble-sized dust release techniques surrounded Naruto's body. You should really learn how to aim. Underneath, Naruto remarked as he popped away in a cloud of smoke. The marbles exploded, as Naruto himself pierced with his Yoroi Tanto through the Tsuchikage's heart. or where his heart would have been, had it actually been that Tsuchikage standing there. The rock clone broke apart as a massive cube engulfed Naruto. An instant later, and the cube disintegrated everything within its premises, the explosion clearing the skies of clouds. Yet Oanoki kept on his smile even as he walked in the middle of the training field once more, because barely a heartbeat later, and he was ducking a swipe from an extended leg. "Your clones are annoying!" Oanoki exclaimed. "I can do with them as I please, old man," Naruto retorted. "Nothing's unfair in love and war." Truer words were never spoken. A rock club sprouted from the ground to parry a punch. As the rock shattered, it turned into sharp splinters that flew through the air to rip at Naruto's chest. The clone exploded once more. Another appeared with a Rasengan in hand in place of the first. One more came from the skies themselves, a comet of fire and slashing winds. Oanoki laughed as he spun, rock walls forming all around his body as earth dragons rose from his very arms. Giant claws of rock tore at the incoming comet, which exploded in a shower of cerulean fire. The ground itself cracked apart, as Oanoki flickered away from the center of the upcoming maelstrom of wind chakra that soon morphed to fire, pale and blue. "I saw the technique during the Chunin exams," Oanoki said, appearing at the borders of the training ground. "You will not catch me with that." A fist flew through the air then, slamming into the man's back and sending him forward with his eyes wide. In midair, a second fist punched the body of the Tsuchikage upwards, before a third kicked it down for a fourth to elbow in the stomach. A fifth clone slashed at the man's back, as a sixth and a seventh impacted twin Rasengans against the Kage's chest once more. The body of the Tsuchikage turned to rock, but this time seals of ink shone brightly within it as one more explosion created a crater. The training ground had been a patch of even rock. When the training began, it was now a crater-riddled area, where random fires and ferocious wind blades appeared. "You have chakra to spend, I admit," Oanoki remarked as he once more appeared from the ground. "Yet if you don't know how to use it wisely, it will all be for naught." Naruto's body spun, flickering in the air in a flash of blue fire. A chakra claw extended from his right hand, slamming into the ground and further cracking it apart. The light cloak of cerulean chakra that covered him flickered out of existence as he disappeared once more in a flash of pure speed. Oanoki's rock clone smiled once more, even as his right side turned to cinders. "Well, you took your father's speed, I suppose?" Naruto reappeared a moment later, cracking his knuckles and craning his neck. "Haven't you had enough fighting with clones, old man?" "Impertinent brat," Oanoki smirked, as he actually appeared, diving down from the clouds. "Very well then," the Tsuchikage exclaimed, his right hand spiraling chakra. "Let's see if the Iwagakure's Rasengan is worth something against yours." Naruto just smiled and gripped at the Tsuchikage's wrist the moment his hand slammed against his chest. "A second is all we need, old man." A smile later, and as the earth-colored Rasengan of Oanoki exploded in earthen spikes, Yoroi Tanto appeared from the very ground as 5 Naruto pointed at the old man's vitals. "Course you know," Oanoki remarked once more dryly. "I'm a clone." "Yeah, we suspected that," the 5 said as a bright square of dust release encapsulated them all. The moment the air pressure brought forth by the explosion passed by, Naruto's voice rung through the air. "Really, old man? Are you so old-fashioned you need me to defeat you to get your granddaughter's hand in marriage? Well, brat, I'd like to claim you as my successor too, you know. You asked for it." Oanoki yelled aloud. "You've got to earn your place." Both voices came from the thin air, before a flickering of light soon met with steel battling each other. "Found ya, brat." "I found you, old man." Pure crimson fire escaped from a corner of air. "Using the Kage Bunshin as a cover won't work anymore. Hiding beneath rocks is useless, old man." As the two bantered and fought, sparks soared the air where Tanto met kunai. Shuriken left the place to rock debris, until finally Oanoki began to tire. The problem. The old man actually appeared in the training ground, panting hard. Is that old age is catching up? Naruto flickered into existence a moment afterwards, smiling brightly as he twirled his Yoroi Tanto. Sure, give the fault to your age. "Ohi brat, if I wanted to kill you I'd have done that already." Oanoki snapped back. "Likewise, old man," Naruto said plainly. "We're giving a show for the Jounin, right? And the Umbu." The Tsuchikage retorted. "You lot seeing the fight?" he exclaimed then. "Anyone still against Naruto Namikaze as my successor?" No reply came, even as scores of shinobi began slowly to appear from the sides of the training ground. "Very well then," Oanoki yelled. From this moment forth, I stepped down as the Sandaime Tsuchikage. Onoki's white and red kage had arrived, with Kuratsuchi carrying it. She held a neutral and ice-filled face, even though her disgust at the situation was as clear as the sun. We don't believe much in parties and celebrations, Onoki remarked as he floated forward, holding the hat in his hands. But since you're going to marry my granddaughter anyway, we'll just do everything at the same time. With a shrug that Tsuchikage's hat dropped on Naruto's head, there was no shower of applauses or whistles. No one said anything. It was extremely awkward, if Naruto had to say it. Congratulations, Kuratsuchi said plainly, her eyes narrowing on his. Darling! Naruto smiled, before gripping Kuratsuchi by the sides and bringing her closer. His smile turned into a feral smirk as he roughly kissed her. Please! Keep that for after the marriage, Onoki exclaimed, making a grunt of disgust. I changed her diapers, you know. Grandfather! Kuratsuchi yelled that in genuine shock and surprise. What, now, enough with the lovey-dovey stuff. As my successor, there are things you need to know. Onoki's smile kept itself up. Things that will show you just on which side you're fighting for. Naruto hugged Kuratsuchi tightly, before letting her go. See you later, my love. The narrowed and dark eyes of the boy, however, they shone with a ferociousness that made Kuratsuchi's very soul shudder. Sakura, the explosive tags detonated. Heads exploded, the katana assigned to the umbus sliced through the monster's corpses, leaving behind charred flesh as fire chakra did its work. Clean the village! Sakura barked. Kill all the infected! A small monster, the size of a child, stumbled out of one of the wooden huts that once had been a house in the village. A village located not too far from the land of rice, but within the land of fire. Her shoulder pulsed, and she inwardly winced, as the head of the girl, the torn and tattered dress she wore identified the monster as such, rolled on the ground while her body combusted into flames. Fast! All of them! I'm not infected! A shrill voice rang in the air, as a man left a house, his hands up in the air. I swear I'm not! A blade stuck through his heart the next moment, as his entire body burned. His shrill screams of burning alive echoed throughout the desolation of the charred remains. Clean the village! Sakura barked, pulling out her sword and swiping it forward to remove the blood and charred flesh. Am I speaking in another language? Kill them all! Move it! 2 Umbu dropped down from a roof, holding within their steel wires a third. This one is from Kumo. One of the two droned. He masqueraded as one of ours. He was trying to flee when we got him. Dot. That's a lie. It's not. Sakura's right hand gripped tightly on the man's neck, lifting him up as she began to pressure his windpipe. Traitors don't get to talk, she hissed, before slamming her head against the man's mask and shattering it. She growled, showing her teeth as her emerald eyes turned cold. Are you a traitor? And no. She pulled at her chakra, letting it pour through her hand and into the brain of her opponent. The man suddenly screamed, frothing from his mouth as he tried to free himself from the steel wire. Are you a traitor? And no! No plea. The genjutsu morphed once more, as Sakura's face was mere inches away from the man in question. Are you a traitor? Why, you can't betray a country that isn't yours! The man coughed out as he tried to bite down on his tongue. No, no, no! Sakura smiled, plunging her entire hand coiled in a fist inside the man's mouth. You don't get to take the easy way out. She chuckled. My master will really like to interrogate you thoroughly. She gripped tightly at his tongue. The man's screams deafened by the fact that his mouth stretched beyond normal. I think a snapped jaw will aid us, she remarked, slowly watching as the muscles in the man's throat begged for air, as the gag reflexes furiously tried to remove the foreign object. Tears were in the corners of the man's eyes, and yet Sakura just giggled quietly. Traitors don't get to talk after all. With a soul-shuddering crack, Sakura removed her hand from the now limp mouth of the traitor, who screamed from the pain. Gag him, she ordered, and then bring him back to forward headquarters. Let Hibitaishu deal with him. The two Umbu nodded firmly, before disappearing. She walked through the village next, watching as the corpses were disposed of with fire techniques. Check yourself for injuries, she barked. We're moving in 5, so settle your supply needs now. Her steps took her out of the village and towards the rice fields nearby. Crimson was the water that ran across the stalks of rice, the battered road ahead eerily filled with corpses. There was a light rustling, followed by a timid head poking out of the fields. A dog waggled its tail happily as it barked, its back covered in blood that matted his fur. The creature stilled a few steps away from her, barking in her direction. Sakura clicked her tongue, before whistling. "Come on here, boy," she muttered, kneeling gently. "Come on, I don't bite." Her hand offered a dried strip of meat. "Come on, it's good to eat," she added. "It's meat, you look starved." She smiled then, as the dog warily neared. The creature ate hungrily, as she slowly began to scratch its neck. "That's a good boy." She gripped the dog's head. "That's a really good boy." The neck went snap. Her eyes' light died out, replaced with a dull apathy. "But orders are absolute." She stood up then, the wind blowing through her crimson and dark green locks. Her mask of white porcelain covered in blood droplets, just like the rest of her uniform. "Only traitors don't follow orders." She sheathed her katana next. "Wolf Taisha!" one of the Umbu exclaimed, flickering next to her. "We are ready to depart." "Very well then," she replied coldly. "Towards the rice fields capital then." Her eyes moved to gaze at the horizon, behind her wolf mask. "Survivors along the way will be killed. This sickness ends with us. Understood, men?" "Hi!" Everything was fine. I in her beautiful, happy place. Everything was fine. The problem was she wasn't fine. She needed anything to prove she was not a monster. She wasn't one. She was obeying orders, and shinobi obeyed orders. Therefore, she was not a monster. She was a shinobi. Furthermore, she'd meet with Naruto's relative after this. If it was a man, then maybe there was the off chance he'd be similar to Naruto. If it was a woman, then she could try to rip her skin off, just to see how it would be to become an Uzumaki. She had ripped the skin off tigers after all, to smell like them. How difficult would it be, to rip the skin off a human being and wear it like a fancy dress? Easier than strapping an Umbu uniform on, she supposed. "Tsunade. We are missing the 9 tails and the 8 tails chakra," Obito replied calmly, his arms crossed in front of his chest. "The statue needs but a piece of chakra for it to work. There actually is no need to remove a bijou from a shinobi's body, if not for the military value of it." "Does Nagato suspect anything?" Tsunade asked quietly, her face morphed in a grimace. "No, he does not," Obito replied. "For all he knows, he is hunting Orochimaru and Itachi. A pity Orochimaru isn't in Orochimaru's body any longer." Tsunade hummed. "That technique of yours is sickening," she retorted. "This technique of mine grants me more than you can possibly imagine, Tsunade," Orochimaru replied. "Knowledge is power. The things I have merely grasped from the earth itself. They would make thousands of heavy books pale in comparison. Even the mightiest of libraries is nothing, compared to that single instant in which the earth itself spoke to me. To that infinity, everything else is meaningless. So you can bring them back? The creation of all things, Tsunade, Edo Tensei was a failure, because it demanded not only a piece of something, but also a soul, and souls are made of chakra, which return to the earth upon death. They return, because there is something amiss that calls to be filled." Orochimaru eyed the statue. "The first tail is interwoven with the 9th, he muttered. "And the second has been harnessed already, hasn't it?" "Yes," Tsunade muttered. "To think Sensei even told them to name you Hokage, rather than me. A true shinobi endures everything, Tsunade." Orochimaru's golden eyes stared at the statue once more. "Be it the brand of betrayal, or the loss of everyone. Don't let Jiraiya hear me say this, of course." There was a moment of silence that only the clinking of golden chakra chains interrupted. "Where is he, anyway?" "Working on a mean to free your student from the grasp of that." Tsunade eyed the statue. "Shouldn't we just let Nagato summon it?" "No," Orochimaru remarked. "He would use it as an instrument of war and devastation, of complete and utter annihilation." The snake Sannin chuckled. "Not so different from my purpose. But whereas he would destroy and leave charred remains, husks of civilizations, I would use the power to recreate all that was lost. A clean slate, a new beginning, to destroy all and create again." Orochimaru's golden eyes shone for an instant. "Among the ashes of nothingness, to build back all that will be lost, I am the wind that will usher forth change," he whispered. "I am the hurricane that will level the villages to the ground," he hissed. "I am Orochimaru. You're talking to the Hokage of one of those villages, you know? Do you really care?" Orochimaru raised his right eyebrow. "There is nothing but ghosts in the Senju compound." There is nothing but shadows of regret lingering in the streets. I'll have to get dead drunk again tonight, Tsunade muttered. Thanks for keeping my mind out of depression, It is a pleasure, Tsunade. What else are teammates for? The snake Sannin chuckled before turning to leave. You will keep your promise? She asked him suddenly, gazing at the back of his head as the man stilled. I promise, Tsunade. A world where there is no war, but only peace. I will create such a world. A world filled with knowledge for me, filled with peace for you, love for Jiraiya, parents for the orphans, money for the poor. I will create a heaven on earth. It will not be an illusion. You always aimed high, didn't you? The wind blows stronger the higher you go. With that, the snake Sannin flickered away. Tsunade sighed before whispering, while her eyes went to the golden chains wrapping around the statue. In the end, I'm just a greedy woman. Then she bitterly laughed, before heading out herself. Below, in the pitch-black darkness of agony and madness, mixed with the stench of blood and pain, Kushina babbled on in her shattered mind. She had no mouth, but she wanted to scream. Naruto, his hands gripped tightly on the steel bars of the overhanging walkway. Below, by the hundreds, were people working like slaves along the tunnels deep within the belly of the Wagakure. Chakra techniques would unsettle the mountain this deep down, Oanoki remarked. The finest of steel and minerals are extracted through the sweat of the brow of slaves. There is a wide slave market in the underground. A country has some dissidents, and soon they are no more. A daimyo has a bastard son, and soon he is no more. The old Tsuchikage smiled. As the Yondaime Tsuchikage, you will need to know this stuff. You aren't actually planning to betray me, Naruto murmured, his eyes staring deeply into Oanoki's. Why? Orochimaru sent that plan out of the window. Oanoki grumbled. I don't care what you think, but my loyalty has always been to the people of Wagakure. That is my duty as their leader. If having your worst enemy as the leader will spare their lives from further suffering, only a fool would refuse. I remember. His voice grew tired. I remember when in IWA, everyone wore the black and cried. There wasn't a road you would walk by without seeing a funeral with an empty coffin, or a widow doubled over in pain for the loss of their husband, or a mother crying for the news of her child's death. Onoki's eyes gazed at him. The eyes weren't filled with hidden scorn or hatred. They were tired eyes that gaze a man too old for his post held. The troubles of age aren't just as simple as aching bones or muscles. They're also about seeing so much misery and pain that you cannot help but grow jaded to it. Oanoki chuckled then. A leader takes care of his people and himself. A good leader will put his life at risk for his people. A real leader, a real Kage, he will risk his own life to protect his people. The man's eyes shone. To lay down one's own life, in defense of their village, there is not a higher honor for a Kage. I will become. Naruto flinched, as a stab of agony snaked through his brain with fury. He winced, tightly holding himself together. He could not show weakness, even to those words. His plan hinged on this. So, what is this? He asked, changing the argument. Oanoki's lips twitched upwards, as he answered. This is a labor camp deep beneath the village of IWA. Only Wagakure special forces have permission to know of this place, and only those undoubtedly loyal to the village. This place does not exist outside of the Wagakure's Kage desk, in the last drawer hidden behind a secret compartment. Nobody will ever tell you it exists, or that at one point in time every nation brought its dissidents in here. Oanoki gave him a quick glance, appraising his reactions. Even Konoha did. We have deals not only with governments, but also with their opposition. Everyone has uncomfortable people they want to make disappear without a fuss. Why not directly kill them, then? Because they might turn useful in the future. Oanoki shrugged. And if they die, it's no skin off anyone's teeth. Everyone in here has been condemned to death in his country, or has committed so many crimes nobody would be surprised if they committed suicide in their cells. All that it takes is a distraction and whoosh, off they come to IWA to enjoy some backbreaking exercise. So it's a prison camp, Naruto mumbled. The more they give and pay, the less they pay back for the steel? Exactly. Oanoki nodded. We ship it out through a few private contractors, but recently the Land of Claws, Demon and the Land of Tea have banded together, and their prices have skyrocketed. Which is why you wanted to invade them, Naruto remarked. Yes, Oanoki shrugged. Nothing more than to have them pay protection, which would be used to offset the costs they'd put on us for the use of the private line. They'd threaten us with higher costs, we'd threaten them with a kunai in the back. And the land of the moon is another competitor? Yes, but it has a situation currently ongoing, what with their civil war. Oanoki rolled his eyes. And it's too big of a noticeable thing. Nobody cared about the land of this and the land of that when they merged. Nobody cares about the land of tea. Everyone cares when it comes to the casino and the banks in the land of the moon. Naruto narrowed his eyes. As Tsuchikage, it should be my duty to make sure the land of Iwa prospers. He murmured. Right. Oanoki just smiled. There is nothing better than to bleed with your men, to show them of what you're really made. And if instead I were to simply waltz in Konoha and unite the two villages? Naruto remarked. Ha! Good luck with that. You think the daimyo of the land of Earth would watch by as his shinobi village empties? Who said it has to be empty? Naruto shot back. There have always been 5 kage, 1 per nation, correct? Oanoki hummed his agreement. What if there was only 1 nation? 1 made of ninja? Do you know how many corpses would litter the road to such a feat, boy? You think nobody tried before? Naruto smiled. Maybe, but if our only rival is Kumo. His words dropped to a low tone. It can be done. You'd have to slaughter millions. We aren't talking of thousands here. Oanoki grumbled. And there would be charred ground everywhere. You'd basically kill everything just to make sure they kneel properly. The shinobi world can't live in peace to save itself. He muttered. We thrive on war, blood and death. It is only in a state of perpetual war that we shinobi have a purpose. You should think carefully about what it is you wish to obtain, Oanoki remarked. World domination sounds easy when you believe yourself untouchable, but beliefs are just that, beliefs. They aren't reality unless you can prove it. I'll strike the lands of tea, of demons, of claws and fangs for you, Naruto stated. I heard Orochimaru's words, but I'll give you the benefit of doubt. When Kumo will move, because it will, I'll strike down their Jinchuriki. Their Jinchuriki does not leave the village, Oanoki replied. All of their previous Jinchuriki never left the premises of Kumogakure during their life, except in dire cases. Then, Naruto smiled. I'll just have to make the case dire enough. Oanoki exhaled. Youth and its hot-bloodedness, better hurry on with the marriage then. Why should we fret? Naruto smiled. When I come back as the winner of the war, then we can celebrate doubly. Oanoki held his tongue. So is this how you want to play it, brat? We are deep within Iwagakure. Chakra techniques unsettle the mind, right? Naruto turned thoughtful. I wonder, how are we going to play it? Oanoki laughed. His eyes closed as the old man laughed to the point of holding his sides and nearly doubling over. His laughter resounded in the cave, not dark and hollow but filled with genuine appreciation. As devious as a snake, his old eyes gazed at the ceiling, coiled and ready to strike at the right moment. Naruto smiled. I learned from the best teacher Konoha had to offer. Danzo Shimura, everything is meaningless. He closed his eyes. All that grows will rot. He breathed slowly. The sun will scorch. The water will drown. He exhaled. The earth will shatter. The air will suffocate. His legs crossed, his mind empty. Danzo Shimura meditated. Blood will boil. Darkness will consume. All will end. The whispers never ceased. They didn't thankfully increase, but neither did they lower. I have time. You do not. Mortal flesh isn't meant to last the test of time. You will die. I will be free. I am the fake made real. I am the purpose behind the destruction. I plan to take you with me, Danzo whispered. Why didn't we die? I repaired your body. I claimed your flesh. Imprisoned in steel, I withered in pain. Bound by flesh, I thrive. You're just a parasite, Danzo hissed. Parasites can be purged. Anger, malice, hatred. I am the imperfect creation of mankind. I am the son of decadence and suffering. Our purpose etched on the thread of fate. There is no freedom from our eternal task. Danzo opened his eyes. The door of the wooden shack creaked as Kisame entered, carrying a fisher's net on his back filled with fishes. It's fish again for dinner, Kisame stated plainly. Hope you aren't getting bored of it. Mushrooms aren't easy to find around these parts. Danzo inclined his head to the side, before nodding. We are in your debt, Kisame-san. Enough with the san, Kisame grumbled. I left it all behind. Took my sword and left for this nice little place. The missing nin from Miss shrugged. Didn't turn back once, you know? No backstabbing students to deal with, no mad Nizukage to give off stupid orders. absolutely nothing to worry about. I've always wanted to live in a world without lies, but barring that, life as a fisherman isn't bad at all. The man shrugged. I always thought I could retire once dead. Danzo replied dryly. I admit, this piece is enticing, and I thank you for your hospitality, but the old war dog knows only how to rip and tear, Kisame said, giving Danzo a knowing look. It will never learn anything more. Ah, you could put it like that, Kisame. Danzo's lips twitched upwards. The Yami of Shinobi wouldn't have smiled before. He would have looked for a way out, for a mean to return to Konoha, but now he couldn't think or plot. It was strange, going against an entire life's worth of philosophy about keeping one's emotion in check and having to keep one's own sentiments either positive or neutral. There couldn't be a moment to plan about murdering someone, for example, that the Zero Tails would start making itself known stronger than before. The Foremark seal wasn't designed as a system to keep a bijou at bay. It did work, mostly because Danzo hadn't reached old age without a strong will to carry him through half of his body's wounds, but in reality, it was sort of frustrating if he could feel frustration, which he couldn't. Therefore, Danzo smiled. Hiruzen had always made it look so easy, to act like the elderly and happy grandfather. He had no other choice. Shackled chains, freedom barred. The lack of free will turns all men into ravenous beasts, he chuckled lightly. It sounded so foreign, such a sound to his ears. What about you, however? You did lay down your weapons, didn't you? I still train. Kisame shrugged. Not as much as before, but just to keep up with the praise in the river. The sound of a knife unsheathed and used rung through Danzo's ears. He didn't tense. He knew the missing nin was simply slicing the fish. The Zero Tails would react otherwise. He had never been much of a censor-type shinobi, but as long as there was bloodlust, the bijou reacted accordingly. Stolen. Tools of the gods stolen. You think yourself superior for being thieves. Your aunts who claimed something not meant for them. I am an error and a mistake. You are a sin and a cancer. Danzo opened his eyes as the door carefully opened, to admit Amaru inside with a basket in her arms. I found some medicinal herbs around the house, the girl said cheerfully, very different from the first days of cohabitation with Kisame, while she headed towards the table to drop the basket. Oh, you should show me where you found them later, Kisame replied. I never was very good with that medicine stuff. Amaru nodded, smiling brightly. No beast rests forever, not when the thirst of blood calls. Danzo closed his eyes again, taking a deep breath. He needed fortitude. It was his favorite word for a reason, after all. Jiraiya. Look ahead and ponder, stranger. Jiraiya muttered to himself, reading from an old and dusty-looking book in the middle of Yuzushiogakyo's ruins. Of what lies in the desert once jungle. The folly of men is not their want of power, but the use they make of it. How many more shall die and how many will wither to ashes? Will the cinders of the civilizations lost in the wars mar the ground forever? How long will time take once more to erase from the youth the memory of pain? How long, until sorrow will ignite the flames of hatred once more? There was silence in the half-crumbled building, once a well-stocked library and now nothing more than a dilapidated mass of rubble and concrete. Jiraiya sighed, and then gently laid the book atop a small pile. Luckily, for him, scavengers never cared about the books. Unluckily, someone had already come here first, and judging by the smell, it had to be the worst possible person. Especially because he left behind a trail of books like a small river of pebbles, all seemingly meant to guide him to a specific destination. Orochimaru had even left behind notes, scribbled on the sides of the books. How long had he moved through the old books? How long had he spent, searching for something inside the library? The way he left this trail is annoying me to no limits, Jiraiya grumbled. On one hand, it was pretty much Orochimaru's way of screwing up with him. On the other, it could provide helpful. The next book was a few steps forward. Jiraiya opened it up, exhaling out a light gust of wind as the dust left the old and crinkly pages. Finding the mark quickly, he once more began to read. If a single man trudged the earth, there would be no war. If two men trudged the earth far away from one another, so that they would never meet, there would be no war. If two men trudged the earth together, but had everything they wanted, and everything they desired, then there would be no war. If one of the two men had something the other one desired, however, and the other could not have it, then conflict would be born. That is inevitable. The small scribbled note to the side was a mere word, which made no sense to Jiraiya. Cross-reference meant something if there was a what right after that, but without it. So what? Orochi read a bunch of books on wars and then he was there to look for a way to free Kushina from her fate, but Orochimaru's trail had taken the precedence the moment he had found it. There simply wouldn't be another chance like this if he let it run. The next book appeared heavy, but was surprisingly light and had many pages torn. Scribbled on the side were the words destroyed blueprints, safer this way. What is safer? What were you doing in here to begin with, Orochimaru? Jiraiya mumbled as he found the mark on the book. The mechanical advancement in the fields of land weaponry has brought forth interesting conclusions concerning the usage of chakra and emotions. The Land of the Sky project aims to create a flying fortress and a paradise for the many, away from the war that plagues the land. While the rest of the world will fight on the ground, the men and women of the Land of the Sky will fly freely above the clouds. Jiraiya closed the book and grumbled. This is getting me nowhere. He threw the book to the side, before moving once more forwards for the next one. There were just a few remaining, but he still wasn't seeing what the point was. Maybe Orochimaru was right, and he would never see the bigger picture, but really, well, he was stupid too, for following through the trail of breadcrumbs. Absorption of chakra can be turned into a weapon to drain the life out of an enemy. Jiraiya grumbled, discarding the book for yet another one. Stored chakra can be held indefinitely, as long as the container is living and can sustain within its body the amount stored. The chakra's defiance of the laws of physics has been thoroughly tested. It should not be possible to emit water, fire, or even lightning from one's body in high enough doses to kill another man, yet chakra enables it. Chakra grants man the ability to change the landscape. Provided there is enough chakra, could one create something from nothingness? Something was starting to make a vague sense. It was extremely vague, but if emotions and chakra are tightly connected, and the extreme amount of emotions produced by an entire world's population waging war upon one another is harnessed, would the resulting energy be able to create something? The theory should be tested. Jiraiya blinked, before carefully reading once more Orochimaru's scribbled note. Yes, he had definitively scribbled those lines. There was just one last book remaining, but Jiraiya simply gripped it with dread spiking the hair on the back of his head. He opened it, reaching for the intended page. Creating matter would require expending chakra above and beyond what a normal human could ever hope to store. How can we manage to mold the chakra in our body to form flames, but actually not create flames directly outside of us is bizarre, but we will set it down as a law of chakra for the time being. No act of chakra can be done without a link to a human body. To form means the concept of flames is inherently within a human's body. To create would mean there wouldn't be the concept in the first place. But then, why can some channel fire chakra easily, while others cannot? Shouldn't all have the same mastery? All right, Orochi. Jiraiya mumbled. You confuse me up to this point, but I haven't understood a thing. Jiraiya stood, dusting off his clothes and exhaling. Really, what a waste of time. Once an imbecile, always an imbecile. Jiraiya brought up a stone sword just in time to deflect the Kuzunagi's tip from piercing his sides. A strong gust of wind shattered the stone shelves and the rubble, throwing Jiraiya's body out of the library and onto the street. Walking in the middle of the dust, raised by the crumbling building, Orochimaru walked out holding a visibly pissed-off face. I even gave you the time to read through it all, and still you do not understand? How stupid can you be? Really? I gave you time. All the time in the world. How can you not understand yet? Spent so much time licking toads, you lost all of your brain cells. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed, his left hand slowly going through the hand seals of a summoning technique. Orochimaru's body twisted, as the Kusanagi and over 1,000 snakes soared the air with their jaws open and filled with steel. I told you to ask about the Edo Tensei. I told you to ask about the bigger picture. Why can't you ever do as you're told, Jiraiya? Is it so difficult? Jiraiya finished the summoning just in time, as the stomach of the mountain toad appeared to protect him from the brunt of the attack while he dodged the Kusunagi's blade. Maybe if you spoke straight to me for once. Jiraiya yelled. Maybe if you didn't talk in damn fucking riddles. It's this stupidity that cost you your wife and daughter, Jiraiya. Orochimaru roared back. This stupidity was the reason the Yondaime died. Your stupidity is a sin that should be washed away with your blood. Jiraiya screamed as he charged ahead, flickering right in front of Orochimaru and slicing downward. Enough! Why can't you be straight with me for once? Orochimaru sidestepped the blow, letting it crack the ground and slice away with its momentum a good chunk of the pavement itself. You don't deserve it, Orochimaru answered bluntly. You're a fool who places emotions, feelings, ideas above cold hard logic. You're a toy of fate and a ragdoll. You don't have a plotted course, an objective, a clear-cut mission to obey to, and that makes you stupid. Sorry if I'm not a sociopath like you then. Oh no, I'm the one sorry you aren't at my level, Orochimaru remarked, slamming his right hand forward. Jiraiya knelt, before slamming his spiked head upwards to tear apart Orochimaru's right limb. The moment the Sannin did that, snakes erupted from the limb's extremity to bite onto Jiraiya. The toad Sannin's hair spiked up like a porcupine, piercing all the snakes before they could bite him. When everything you believe in is shaken, when everything you call truth is torn apart from your very hands, Jiraiya, what remains behind? Tell me! Orochimaru screamed, cackling madly. I left you more than breadcrumbs, but you did not know what you were seeing, right? The snake Sannin giggled as he flicked his wrist. The Kusanagi soared through the air, forcing Jiraiya to jump backwards. You didn't realize? You didn't theorize? You didn't make a hypothesis? You didn't look at the undeniable question? I'm stupid, remember? Orochimaru's eyes softened, as if he was actually sad for him being stupid. Yes. You are, so let me ask you, when did humanity stop researching? When did it stop advancing? Why did we grow stagnant, letting our knowledge rest upon old scrolls rather than pave our way towards the future? We content ourselves with our meager pond. We no longer strike to reach the future. Why? 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 Why is the future something we hate and disdain so much? Jiraiya breathed once deeply. So, that's your reason? Don't be stupid, Orochimaru snorted. Oh, right, can't help it if you're really stupid, the Sannin mumbled. The highest technological advancements of humanity have only come through periods of war, he stated plainly. If it hadn't been for the war, we wouldn't have the radio. We wouldn't have electricity. You know the people of the capital invented guns during the warring ages of the samurai, right? Sure, they fell in disuse and were single-shot things, but they could pierce through a samurai's plate all the same. Our very souls of humans are marked and twisted into instruments of war. Orochimaru smiled. So what then, if someone was to change the very soul of people? With what brainwashing? Jiraiya asked. No, you stupid baboon. Orochimaru sighed. Really, it's like talking with a monkey who flings poop at you. The Sannin brought his right hand to his temple, shaking his head slowly. I'll be merciful. I'll give you one last hint, then you really need to understand the bigger picture, Jiraiya, or else I'm afraid you'll need to die. I'm not going to make it easy for you, Jiraiya remarked. We've ended our battles in more draws than I can remember. That's because I let you win, Orochimaru replied with pity in his eyes. I couldn't stand breaking your poor little ego so much time after time. Jiraiya's mouth tightened as if he had just eaten something sour, while Orochimaru sighed once more. History tends to repeat itself. It's a given. The battles of the past will repeat themselves in the future as long as there are humans left to fight them. Even animals fight for territory, to eat their prey and to survive, but what if humanity simply lacked the instinct to fight each other? Tell me, Jiraiya, without the possibility to think about murdering someone, would you still kill him? Without ever knowing of the meaning of slaughter or murder, would humans manage to live in peace? You'd erase everyone's memories of how to kill someone. Jiraiya snorted. That's a dream worthy of a madman. Ah, you see, I delved into the mysteries of chakra deeper than any other shinobi has ever done. I have heard the whispers from the earth, pleading for someone to return the lost fruit. Orochimaru's smile widened tremendously. That would solve a problem, but it wouldn't solve everything. No, what I needed, what I want, what I always want, is change. Evolution. Scientific advancement. I want knowledge. All that is and was and will ever be. Orochimaru roared as the ground spiked into 1,000 small pieces of dust, collecting into a raging tornado of sand. There are feats of architecture we no longer can manage. Feats of power we can no longer equal. There are weapons of our ancestors more powerful than anything we can field. Konoha uses frigging cannons charged with kunai. Our ancestors fought firing highly concentrated blasts of energy. Orochimaru's words heated as he spoke. We had cities that were the wonders of the world. We had brilliant tall skyscrapers and marvelous mechanical contraptions. We had power. We had strength. Where did it all go? Orochimaru slammed his right foot forward. Where? Why was it taken away from us? Jiraiya's eyes widened from the heat of Orochimaru's anger that pulsed and radiated all around him. What? The bigger picture, Jiraiya, is that you're a stupid, moronic, idiotic, imbecilic subspecies of a human being who cannot even comprehend the world he lives in. Orochimaru spat out. Our world, our beautiful world, held so much power, so much science, so much knowledge once. Where did it go? Why did it disappear? Where did it go? What lies beyond our oceans, Jiraiya? I know. I went there. There is nothing but war over there too. Nothing but absolute destruction, and yet, even there, power. New forms of science, of technology, of research. They have mechanized warriors. They have castles that move powered by energy that isn't chakra. Where is our power? The clouds rumbled as lightning sailed in arcs across the upcoming typhoon. You think this concerns the shinobi countries, Jiraiya? You think this concerns my stupid imbecilic student or something like that? Think again. I am alone, battling a torrential downpour of stupidity. I fight alone for science, for power that should be ours and never will be. Orochimaru cackled madly. And you know? His voice now soft, Orochimaru inclined his head to the side. Ignorance, truly is bliss. Because when you realize, when you outright discover what happened, when you pry out from the cold hands of history the sad realization of what really went on, you will suffer. You will suffer like never before. Is your mad rant with a purpose, Orochimaru? Jiraiya warily scratched his thumb. Worse to worse, he was ready to hightail it out of there in an instant. It's all a game. Orochimaru giggled. All of this, it's a game. A nice, little game called economy in the elemental countries. The daimyo orders, the kage obey, the shinobi executes. The villages are the dagger of the daimyo, but isn't the daimyo always guarded by shinobi who could kill them? The daimyo levies the taxes and delivers a portion to the shinobi village, but does it matter when the money could simply be claimed by the shinobi? You're talking like Kazuma did back then, during the revolt of the Guardians. Kazuma-san was really helpful. Orochimaru chuckled. But his words weren't wrong. What need is there for two kings? He believed the Hokage to be the problem, and I strung him along. The problem, however, was the daimyo. People with strength should always rule. The strongest is bound to rule by the oldest of laws, that of the jungle. The daimyo remains in power because he is easily controlled. It is a system meant to avoid excesses from its rulers or risks of tyrants rising to power. Orochimaru clicked his tongue in dissatisfaction. Your stupidity, really, why do I even try? I should slap you with a stick. Maybe a big one with the words dunce written on it. Orochimaru sighed. All right. I'm merciful. Who profits from a continuous state of war followed by peace? Come on. Spout a guess. Nobody does. It's a vicious cycle that, no, really, say something smart or I'm going to kill you. There's too much stupid in your body and it's starting to hurt my ears, eyes, and soul. Orochimaru stated, looking annoyed. Well, for one the armed merchants, then the daimyo who can levy war taxes on the population, and force them under their patriotic obligation to work harder. The shinobi profit because they get higher pays while doing the same missions, and the kage can decide beforehand where to hold their battles and how to fight them. Jiraiya stared at Orochimaru for a single split second, and he actually just stared. Let's battle near Canopy Bridge. I'll send a few teams, you send yours. Let's end it with a bang. Let's blow up a bridge and end the war there. Jiraiya, for the love of Kami, wake the fuck up. We are shinobi. Blowing a bridge up changes nothing. We can make jumps longer than a building. We can walk on water. Iwabikure is famous for its rock techniques, and you tell me that blowing up a bridge means something, when you can seal stuff in scrolls and summon bridges out of the very ground with 2 hand seals. What? Wait, why? Why what? Orochimaru hissed. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Why not before? You know, why didn't you tell me anything? Why didn't you tell me this the first time we fought? You think I knew everything back then? No, I suspected, I theorized, but without proof, theories are unworthy of existing. Still, no matter, it doesn't matter, you see, Jiraiya, in my evil I still have a heart. Orochimaru chuckled. I will not let you suffer any longer, Jiraiya. You're too kind-hearted for the shinobi business, you always were a naive fool. Let me tell you one last thing. Orochimaru breathed in deeply, and then spat out faster than Jiraiya could see a sword. The blade pierced straight through his old teammate's chest, even as Orochimaru's hands slammed back together. His torn limb regenerated from a bunch of snakes. I always considered you a strong shinobi. Naive, stupid, moronic even, but strong all the same, so I'm sorry, my friend, but this is the end of your tale. Gah! Jiraiya coughed blood, falling down on one knee as snakes pierced his ankles, sprouting from the ground. I'll give you the mercy you never dared to ask me. The Kuzunagi's handle tightly gripped. Orochimaru advanced as Jiraiya's sight grew blurry from the pain. You didn't even try to dodge, after all. This is what you actually want, don't you? Hey, give me some credit. I thought you were still ranting. I'm a failure of a teacher, gah, and a failure of a friend. Bitterly, the Toad Sannin muttered as lightning struck the ground near them. A blinding white radiance surrounded the scene as Orochimaru brought the Kusanagi high to deliver the killing blow. My entire life is made of failures. Jiraiya fell on the ground, his hands clutching the rubble. Can't even face you off properly one last time. But, answer me, think of it as my last request. Why did you leave Konoha? Why did you betray everyone? Oh no, Jiraiya, I betrayed no one. Orochimaru whispered. The one betrayed, as always, was me. The Sandaime had the guts to console me for my parents' death, when he had been the one to send them into a skirmish zone. He knew they would meet enemies. He knew there was an ambush. It was all but a game of money for him. Always, every Kage, every stinking daimyo. For the benefit of Konoha. For the benefit of no one but his own interests. For the benefit of the clans maybe. But certainly not for the benefit of a pitiful freak with white skin who had the luck of being a prodigy to save him from the glares and the name-callings of Slimy Snake. Orochimaru roared. And we were his prized pupils. We were his favorites. We were just the choice meat. Slabs ready to be delivered, already tender, and cut to the jaws of the waiting enemies. Orochimaru's hand trembled. The kind, old grandfather never existed. Or maybe he did, and forgot his game? I don't know. I can't know. I loved him like a father, but I hated him like the monster he was. I sacrificed my headband for experiments he financed. I scourged the world as a missing nin while helping Konoha in the shadows. And in the end, I do not know if I hate him or love him still, but you know? Everything ends. Everything that begins must rot away in time. Every drop of hatred must leave the place to silence, for one side inevitably withers and dies in the end. I'm sorry. Ah, don't be. Orochimaru chuckled. His golden eyes shone for a moment. The Sandaime told the sentence to us, when we took our Chunin exams. Do you remember it, Jiraiya? Do you remember those words? Orochimaru's voice was soft now, as he recited by heart. It was. By losing life and establishing balance, this is the shape of friendship in the shinobi world. I'm doing what you wish for, in the end. Say hello to my goddaughter when you see her, alright? Of course. Jiraiya chuckled grimly. Of course. The slice was clean and neat. The head rolled on the ground. Orochimaru turned and walked away, the tornado dwindling down to nothingness. The rain fell a moment later, wetting him as he went. Snakes couldn't cry, but the raindrops were a good enough substitute. As he went out, a small toad hopped away in a puff of smoke a moment later. It had heard everything. Now, it just had to report and then tell the boss about the death of their summoner. Chapter 58. The Triggering of the Final Act. The forests of Kusugakure were always dark, with thick branches that clotted out the sun and bushy leaves that made a hellish noise when the wind blew through them. Run! Run! Run faster! The sandals hit hard against the wet leaves, as the small twigs on the ground cracked. They're just behind us. That was Father's voice. Jaya! Blood sprayed whether you liked it or not as long as your heart pumped it out. The same organ that kept someone alive would kill the human body if wounded, by treacherously pumping the blood out of the open wounds. The heart was truly a fearsome enemy. Thankfully, she had killed hers years before, or so she had thought, but probably it was just a matter of fatigue. Karen's eyes snapped open. She had fallen asleep after a tiresome night. Her gaze soon rested on the crib in the room with indifference, plain and normal indifference. The gurgling stupid calls and the tiny grabby hands meant absolutely nothing to her. They meant nothing. If Orochimaru-sama called, she'd gladly deliver the baby. The light filtered in from the windows, displaying the sunny day that seemed to cover the village of Konoha without a fault. She crossed her arms over the side of the crib, letting it gently roll to the side. The kid's head turned with its bright red eyes towards her. The tuft of blonde hair on his head was unmistakable. The stupid thing gurgled happily. It really appeared to be a happy baby, Karen huffed. She really didn't care. Her heart twitched, just a little bit. It was a matter of hormones. She knew that she'd be back to normal in a matter of months. Being her a faithful servant of Orochimaru-sama, she'd be back to normal in weeks. Goo isn't a word, Karen mumbled, letting her fingers slowly descend to the grasping digits of the kid. It was such soft skin, and such a strong grip. Really? She murmured. What is this? Karen sighed. What is this? Someone knocked at the door. The baby began to cry. Of course, the peace couldn't last. She sighed, hoisting the squirming infant up to her chest and then heading to the door with righteous fury clearly etched all over her face. I'm coming! Really, who the hell thinks knocking like a madman is? Then the door sprung open, and Fu barged in with a bright smile and a bag filled with pastries. Surprise! Oh! Here, I brought cake. Naruto is so cute. Can I hold him? Can I? Why was there that small side of her that wanted to tell no to the girl? It didn't make any sense. Sure, she was an overreactive squirrel, but at the same time, she was a kunoichi with fast enough reflexes to catch Naruto if he fell. There her heart skipped a beat again. What if he fell? She was not mother material. She was not going to start having feelings for her spawn birth only because of its unique genetic background. Why don't you put the cake in the fridge? She smiled. I'll let you hold Naruto later. Fu nodded brightly. You know, I had to do this really cool thing with the Nanabi's chakra, the girl exclaimed. There was this big wood sphere and I had to pour chakra in it, and it sort of sucked it out really fast, but then I was free to go. Karen nodded absent-mindedly. Everything was going according to Orochimaru-sama's plan. Oh, really? Cool, I guess, she replied. What about your friend? Is she still out on missions? Fu replied, her head in her fridge. She came out of there holding a piece of jerky in her mouth. She was sorry she couldn't make it to the baby's shower, but it was awesome all the same, right? Her eyes sparkled. Karen gave her back a small smile. Of course. How could she ignore the bright green toddler-sized spandex suit or bright green turtle motif clothes? She didn't know if those things defined awesome or not, but it did save her the time of having to go and buy them by herself. There was a gentle lull of quiet as the baby stopped crying, interrupted only by Naruto's gurgling and his chubby fingers moving towards a lock of her hair. She exhaled lightly. The little baby squirmed in her hands, his warm body close to hers. She schooled her features a moment later. She utterly despised the hormones. When was Orochimaru-sama going to come and get her? She didn't know how long she'd last in such sappiness. He had even sent Hebe to help her out with leaving the village when the time would come. I'm going on a mission soon, Fu said with a small smile. Near the border of Kirigakure. Karen just smiled. I see. I'm sorry I won't be able to come. Fu grimaced, shaking her head. It's just me, not the team. I have to check on Jiraiya's location. I see, murmured Karen. She gently rocked Naruto a bit more, before another knock came from her door. She frowned this time around. She wasn't expecting any more visitors. She was sorely disappointed when one blur of green entered, showing off a smiling face and perfectly white teeth that sparkled. Are the flames of youth burning brightly today? Naruto began to cry. He always did that when the words flames of youth reached his ears. Maybe he just had a problem with Guy's voice, too cheerful for anyone not on a sugar rush. She smiled at the man and let him in. He was carrying pastries after all. Before closing the door behind him, she didn't have peace anymore. Nevertheless, she strangely found it was all right. This was a pain to suffer through, the stupid people who seemed to enjoy screaming and laughing near her, and she loved pain. Naruto. What you are asking for, Sachikage-sama, is highly unethical. The ambassador of the land of tea was a portly man with beady eyes. There is no reason for us to make a favorable price to your country, when all the others have to pay the same tariffs. Naruto's hands clasped together, his elbows on the obsidian desk of the Sachikage's office. He had asked for a desk change to something more intimidating, especially because it reflected well with the white and red robes he wore as a Kage. I think instead that we might come to an agreement, maybe a lower price concerning Iwa's iron and steel exports tariffs. You're the reason our prices are basically doubled in every other country. You could always sell your wares in Iwagakure, Sachikage-sama. Or, barring that, you could take a land route, albeit I heard brigands and the likes are awfully active this time of the year, and passing through the land of fire. That was the crux of the problem. Iwagakure had steel. Kumogakure and Kirigakure loved that particular brand of steel, just like Konoha and Suna. But unfortunately, to reach the first two the choice was always between the water and the land route. It wasn't brigands who took care of stealing the cargo of Iwagakure's caravans when they came through the land. But I heard that even the water is starting to get a bit problematic recently, something about pirates. Naruto pressed on. Mostly it was Akatsuki. The Gato Industries and Gato Shipping Corporation were front businesses for the Akatsuki, and having learned that from the documents in the Tsuchikage drawers, it was easy to see the pattern. It was also easy to see beyond the mere present. Iwagakure depended on imports for food. The Land of Fire produced most of the elemental country's food, which then it sold to other countries at steep prices, barring Suna, who was their allies specifically because of food reasons. Which is why the costs have gone up, Sachikage-sama. The ambassador continued. We need to increase the security of the cargoes. Yet, Gato shipping lines provide the same services at a lower cost. Maybe, but they are further away, which increases the costs higher than ours. The ambassador smiled. Naruto smiled. Not for long, I think. The ambassador's own smile disappeared. We have a contract of monopoly, Sachikage-sama. We are the ones you come to first and foremost. The contract sign states specifically that it is only for as long as you vow to maintain a price competitive with that of your rivals. Gato's shipping line just recently received permission to start constructing shipyards near the land of Earth's coast. Naruto drummed with his right hand on the desk. Warehouses are already loaded, and as soon as a fleet will arrive, we will begin loading the merchandise. You are making a mistake. The ambassador's voice barely held on to his nervousness. You're expecting a fleet to pass through the Kumo and Kiri fighting unscathed. That's preposterous. Yes. Naruto acquiesced. But if the fleet does manage, I expect those prices to be enough to put you and your fleets out of business soon enough. His eyes darkened. There are many ways to wage war, Ambassador. He continued. And if that pirate problem does not solve itself, then I will see it solved with my own hands. Gato Industries has private contractors for personal defense. If I were you, I'd tread lightly. Thunderstorms gathered outside of the window, above the village of Iwagakure. I see no need for the years of good relations between us and Iwagakure to go to waste like this, Sachikage-sama. The mellifluous voice of the ambassador grated his nerves, but he just smiled. Maybe we could renegotiate? The land of tea is basically a puppet of its merchants and families. Naruto said briskly. Give power to one, to tear down the other. Acquire control of one, to bring down the other. Let me ask you, Ambassador, as a man, as a family man, which family do you think would best suit the needs of IWA? Naruto's right hand drummed on the desk once more. Because we can provide, as long as we are provided to. The ambassador nodded sagely. There is competition held once every 4 years, the Todoroki Shrine Race, in which families compete with runners. The winner becomes the owner of the Degarashi port, alongside with the honor of increasing its influence and power. 4 years ago, the Wagarashi family won, so this year, it's best they lose. Naruto ground out. The ambassador nodded. The Wasabi family is their main competitor. They would have won with ease, if not for shinobi from AIM interfering with the competition. AIM? Naruto murmured softly. I see. He closed his eyes, lost in thought. I will send one of my teams then, to ensure a fairer competition. I wonder though, will the Wasabi family really uphold their end of the deal, Ambassador? I was exiled into this post, Sachikage-sama. The ambassador replied. As one of the Wasabi family, we have everything to gain, and nothing to lose. I expect fruitful results. Naruto nodded. Tell the daimyo he has nothing to fear about losing us as customers, for the moment. The ambassador left hurriedly through the door, probably to pen 2 parchments rather than one alone. Naruto exhaled, cracking his neck. Send for Katsuchi, he murmured, and the clan head of the Kamizuru. One of the bodyguards hidden within the room's walls obeyed, leaving in a hurry through the rock. The noise of water droplets crashing against the glass window of his office made him look outside, where the thunderstorm had begun picking up. Savior or destroyer? Naruto murmured. Well, he chuckled as he removed the hat from his head. I wonder what he would say about this. Become the weapon that Konoha needs. He certainly wouldn't be happy at all. Naruto softly added. The door to his office opened smoothly, as Naruto quickly placed the Tsuchikage's hat back on his head. The Kamizuru's clan head was a certain Takeo Kamizuru, a stern-looking man with a squared jaw and dark, cold eyes. Kitsuchi was his father-in-law since recently, but his gaze wasn't anything less than a full-out glare. Tsuchikage-sama. They both stiffly stood straight. Konoha treated clan heads and their clans with respect, being the village founded on the principle of different clans uniting. Iwagakure didn't make any distinction. Being a part of a clan just meant you had a large family or some sort of bloodline, but it didn't make you any more important than being a jounin. I want 2 teams of your best able-bodied men, Naruto replied dryly. They must be ready to depart for the land of tea at a moment's notice. He inclined his head to the side. Needless to say, they must be the very best. He continued smoothly. Failure will not be tolerated, but success will be highly recompensed. Both jounin stood to attention, and Naruto dismissed them. He smiled bitterly as the rain increased in intensity. How easy would it be? He whispered. To destroy everything? He closed his eyes. Just a push, an order, I see. He chuckled. That's why power without control is meaningless. The guards assigned to the Tsuchikage watched with a dispassionate look as their leader began to laugh, his shoulders trembling as the cackling increased with the thunder of the storm. A reason is not required, Naruto whispered. To do what I want, I don't need a reason. He opened his eyes. Still, having one is better. The ground trembled. Naruto's eyes sharply turned towards the windows, and the thing beyond them. A massive coral column seemed to have sprouted in the center of Iwagakure, like a sort of nascent tree. It tore apart a few buildings as it grew, before coming to a halt as a massive branch birthed from its side. A shinobi was running across it, one that Naruto instinctively recognized. All shinobi! Evacuate civilians to emergency shelters! S-rank threat! He roared before the giant coral crashed against the sides of the Tsuchikage tower, breaking it apart. In the middle of the debris, of the falling rocks and floors, Naruto's body twisted backwards as Kakuzu's right arm swung forward in a punch. The cerulean eyes of Naruto fixed with the green ones of the Takigakure missing Nin, and with a smirk, the S-rank shinobi crisply yelled. Well, brat. Me and my partner here want to know, are you strong enough? Naruto avoided the blow, flickering on a nearby falling rock and pushing his legs against it to jump in the opposite direction, one Rasengan per hand. You tell me! He snarled back, sending them both to crash against a shield of coral and wood. I'm not impressed, Kakuzu grunted as they both landed on a nearby rooftop, the rain falling down sharply. But we aren't done. Naruto cracked his neck. Why now? He asked. Why now, of all times? Because, Kakuzu replied, your life belongs to me. You'll have to get it over my dead corpse. Naruto snarled. And even then, it will not be enough. A wooden branch split off from Kakuzu's arm, as the man grunted. You think? I had time to train the Mokutan ability I stole from your so-called teammate. I have a Bija under my control. What makes you think you have a chance? Funny you ask? Naruto snarled. I have 3, and an army. As 1,000 Naruto appeared, Kakuzu chuckled. Let's see it then, let's see if my wait was worth it. Come on then. Make my blood boil in excitement, Naruto Namikaze. Show me. Show me if you're stronger than the Shodame. The building collapsed as Kakuzu slammed his right foot against its roof. The thunder streaked the sky. Lightning bolts shot down against the metal rods on the nearby rooftops. Naruto swallowed. This was a battle long postponed. He couldn't look bad in front of his village now, could he? Danzo, he was glad. He couldn't be pissed, so he had to be glad. Prohibited from feeling negative emotions was a heavy toll, especially for him who always had to think of the worst possible scenario and prepare contingencies for it. Now, all he could do was be glad the rain had stopped and that he and Amaru could restart their journey on foot. The vast land of fire blossomed in front of him as they walked. He loved his land, be it because of his patriotic instinct or because he genuinely liked watching nature. His footsteps were just a little bit faster than usual, because he was on soil that belonged to the land of fire, on soil that belonged to his land. He was going home. The rainbow truly was a blessed sight. Even the beast within his guts didn't as much as growl. He wondered how Hiruzen would take the news of his return, if he hadn't kicked the bucket in his old age. Holding on to a gnarled wooden cane, just a branch from a tree that Kisame had gifted him, after having masterfully worked it into something he could use to aid in his walking, he kept a steady pace on the road filled with mud and puddles. I can't wait to see Konoha. Is it really big like they say? Amaru asked, trying to make conversation. Yes. Danzo nodded firmly. It is. It is a beautiful village, whose roots are strong and trees many, just like the leaves. He murmured. It's beautiful to watch the sun set over it. I cannot wait to visit it then. Amaru replied. Will it be all right? For me, I will vouch for you. Danzo replied. You are not a shinobi, and thus they won't make any problem, and if they do, they will answer to me. He grumbled as the girl hugged him, before trying to help him along. I know I'm supposed to be scared, Amaru whispered, but I can't seem to find my fears. Why is it? Danzo asked. Because I know the reason I'm still alive is because you were there, Danzo-san. She gave him a faint smile. And you defeated the Zero Tails, something I thought impossible, so there is nothing you cannot do. Danzo chuckled. His own voice came out rough and unpleasant. He probably was no longer used to chuckling, but he still emitted an unmistakable chuckle. Such hope and trust, he murmured. You really are a soothing presence from my old heart. A set of hurried footsteps reached Danzo's ears, forcing him to halt and stop Amaru. His eyes narrowed, before they visibly relaxed as three shinobi with the leaf symbol stopped in front of him. There was a flicker of recognition in one of them, which was something Danzo could not miss. Shimuradano? One of the three asked. You are alive? I am, he acquiesced, giving a firm nod. I survived, albeit grievously injured. This young lady saved my life. He gave a reassuring pat to Amaru's arm. Now, one of you, go and warn Hiruzen I am coming. The others can escort us back to Konoha. Shimuradano, another said awkwardly, his gaze low. The Sandaime died of a heart attack more than 1 year ago. More than 1 year? Danzo whispered. Has it really been that long? It has, Danzo-sama. The man with the recognizable glint in his eyes said firmly, his tone lacking emotions. Many await your return in Konoha with haste. I see, he exhaled. Then I will test the limits of my body today, it seems. He took a deep breath before turning towards Amaru. One of you carry her. The shinobi that had talked first obeyed, and soon all four dashed upon the heavy branches and the thick bushy trees, Amaru holding herself tightly to the neck of the man. All that begins must eventually rot into oblivion and despair. Hiruzen, so you couldn't wait my return. Were you heartbroken? Did you die, thinking me dead and waiting for you on the other side? I'm sorry, my friend, my time has not yet come. I have things to do. For Konoha. For the villagers. For you, I will complete your task. I will soothe your deepest wound and regret. He looked forward with renewed vigor. I will stop Orochimaru. I created him, and I will destroy him. Sakurashi opened her eyes. The white cloth of the tent met her gaze, flapping from the light breeze. She didn't need a clock or an alarm to know what time it was. Her armor creaked as she moved her right arm over her face. The metallic gauntlet rested with its cold surface over her forehead, her breathing slowing down as she recollected herself, her back against the ground, her emerald eyes gazed at the shadows of her tent. It was quiet. The leather chafed against her skin as she brought her right knee closer to her, slowly distending her sore muscles. She couldn't sleep in the sleeping bag, it constricted her. The mask loosely hung from her belt. Her left hand gingerly touched it, her fingers trailing across the crevices and cracks it held. It was just another day. The infestation was being resolved. Only a few remained, and those few weren't a big enough of a problem. What then was she going to do afterwards? Konoha seemed like a nice place to go back to, until she bitterly realized she had nothing and no one waiting for her back there. Her sensei, dead. Her teammate, gone. Her other teammate, somewhere. The people she had grown up with in the academy either were dead or didn't want anything to do with her. She felt like a puppet without strings. Her disillusioned side was too heavy to bear for long, so she slowly shifted. It was better to think everything was fine. There was an Uzumaki back in Konoha she had to meet. There was Fu, who was just like a child. There was Sai, who probably had become an even greater pervert than before. There was Shizen, who had taught her which poisons could make the guts rot, and which could make you bleed from the ears like a fountain. To a minor extent there was that insufferable hag of the Hokage, who she was going to slowly murder in her sleep one day, or maybe just have her suffer a heart attack. There were people she didn't like. She was going to kill them, one day. Itachi Uchiha was first in line. Her chief was going to be another one. She was going to enjoy killing her. Maybe cutting her to bits and letting the tigers chew on her. Of course, she'd impale her and her snakes on a big stick. Impaling someone rarely killed immediately after all. It was a form of torture for a reason. She stood up from the floor with a grunt, letting her hands pass through her short hair. The mask fell into place a moment later. There really wasn't anything else she could do but take the required steps out of the tent and into the light of the morning sun. She hated the mornings. The birds were too cheerful. The grass was too green. The good old-fashioned night, with the burning villages and the screaming soon-to-be corpses, was much better for her mood. The hawk shrieked sharply from a nearby tent, standing on its perch. It held a Konoha forehead protector tied to its neck, carrying the orders from the main command. They probably amounted to the same old go there, find monsters, kill them all and report success with a nice condiment of choice sultry words from Enko. Sakura rubbed gently the hawk's throat, before taking the slip of paper with the orders. She was the one in charge, and the only one allowed to the messages. "Oh," she murmured. "We're going for that? Already?" She inclined her head to the side. "Probably." She emitted a sharp whistling, attracting the attention of the rest of the camp. There were flickers of shunshin, and soon 20 between men and women, all rigorously masked, stood kneeling behind her, their right hands clenched into fists on the ground and awaiting orders. "Well, seems we took care of the last trouble in the countryside," she smiled. "We're moving from country hillbillies to city bastards. Aren't you all happy we're making a move into upper society now? Think about all that repressed anger, just bubbling to come out. Anyone ever wanted to punch a minor lord? Someone here wants to take dibs on slicing the daimyo's guts? Anyone? Come on." She whined a bit as the 20 Anbu didn't even flinch at her light-hearted tone. "Nobody thinks it's going to be awesome? This is like doing a revolution without doing one. We're literally killing them all. Come on. Nobody here is interested? Not even one?" Her lower lip trembled, not that they could see it, behind her mask. "Oh well, it's fine. It means I'll have more people to kill. Well..." The Anbu dismounted camp in less than a minute, folding and storing in scrolls the tents. Taking point, she began to lead them through the trees. Nobody talked much to her, if at all. The most common word they addressed her with was orders, taicho, and understood. She was sure they were all just shy, even if they simply never said anything else. It took a week to reach the capital, but the thick columns of smoke that rose from it halted her run. For there to be smoke, it meant things were burning. For things to be burning, it meant someone had started a fire. Her orders barked softly, hand signs to complete them. The Anbu flickered and disappeared into the grass and the ground. She knelt down herself, starting to advance by crawling on the dirt. The sun was shining. The cicadas were screaming. One of her Anbu took the order, and began to dash forward, renouncing his cover. 2 volleys of lightning bolts tore the Kage Bunshin of said Anbu apart, reducing it to a cloud of smoke as the ground near him cracked and split. A Kumogakure squad of 4 appeared. Their body were tense, and their eyes looked around for any signs of more shinobi. Sakura smiled, and gave the signal. Her fist smashed first into the head of the leader of the 4-man team, while her Anbu slammed their swords forward to engage the other 3. She sped up as the man blocked her fist with his shoulder, palming a small and thin metallic sheet coated in poison. She threw it forth with a hail of shuriken, watching it pierce the chin and draw blood. As long as there were no survivors, nobody was going to know. They had dared take her kill, they had attacked first, and thus, they had to pay. It was as simple as that. She laughed as she twisted her body, feeling the adrenaline rush through her veins. The poison was already working its way, popping apart the blood vessels in the eyes, making her enemy wince and close them as crimson rivers dribbled down from his eye sockets. She giggled, not caring in the least for the man's screams or yells. He was angry and she was a bitch. What was there of new in that exchange of words? Nothing. Slicing his throat when he stumbled backwards proved to be surprisingly easy. Her kunai came up then, parrying a short sword that met with her blade. She grinned, pushing her body forward as her head slammed against the enemy's nose, crushing it. Her body twisted, her elbow crashing against the man's guts before she pierced his neck with Samban needles. She jumped backwards, avoiding a crackling bolt of electricity. She just loved it when the prey tried to fight back. It was endearing. A lucky kunai struck her in the shoulder, the armor bouncing it off as she threw an explosive tag straight back. It fizzled as it stuck to the shinobi's face, shining brightly before exploding. I'm loving this! Come on, Umbutan squad! Move it! Who kills more gets a prize! She giggled as she jumped on the nearby rooftop, watching the city burn as fighting still broke out between the monsters and the Kumo shinobi who had apparently arrived to the scene before them. However, that would have meant passing through the land of snow and the land of hot water. Now, the Kumobikyu shinobi were busy herding off the monsters, too stupid and slow to be a real threat if you knew how to fight them. Yet, there probably were too many shinobi to fight at the same time. They had little time, and they needed to use it well. She smiled, giving off a sharp whistle to her team. You seeing what I'm seeing? She barked out, giggling. Someone thinks they can come right over here and steal our kills. I don't think so. Team Leaf and Team Fire, ambush all troops you can after they deal with their little problems. Kill as many as you can. She emitted a sharper whistle, letting the hawks circling above their heads descend to land on her arm. I will warn the high command of the situation at hand. The umbu dispersed. Sakura smiled. The hawk departed once more, this time screeching loudly as it carried quite the message. Hunting clouds along the rice fields, like gutting whores who love snakes. It's so fun. She was sure the woman would appreciate her haiku. Haiku were like that. At least, she thought they were. Hunting, hunting! She hummed as she jumped down from the rooftop. I love hunting! She bit her thumb, drawing out blood before slamming it on the ground. Let's go hunting! The puff of smoke dispersed a moment later, revealing jagged claws and feral eyes. The tiger's once luscious pelt had been repeatedly abused and covered with scars and nicks. Sakura hummed as she gently caressed the animal's neck. Let's go hunting, Tori-chan! The tiger obeyed. Sakura's laugh echoed through the abandoned roads filled with rubble and the burning palaces of the capital, as ever so slowly, a dying country emitted its last spasmodic breaths. Chapter 59: The Igniting of the Fuse. Danzo was smiling as he sat on the plush sofa in the Hokage's office. Him smiling unnerved Tsunade greatly, as if some great cosmic force of the world was wrong now, and she couldn't manage to keep a straight face. The careful sips she took of her tea just seemed to make the man smile brighter with every passing second. Had he poisoned the tea? Was that why he was smiling? Calmly, the old man in front of her took a sip of tea too. The fact he was smiling still unnerved her terribly, but he hadn't poisoned the tea. The thoughts about him being a shinobi underhenge or an imposter flew out of the window after he revealed a few choice information only the man in question could possess. There was little doubt that the man in front of her was Shimura Danzo, Yami of Shinobi. The fact he was smiling and drinking tea, with a young girl embarrassingly trying to hide her face behind a cup next to him, meant there really was something strange going on. The problem wasn't only the girl, or the smiling. It was the way Danzo seemed to look, completely at peace, younger maybe? It was strange, to say the least, how she was at a complete lack of words to describe it. So, Tsunade began. You survived and managed to bring down the land of the sky, Shimura-san? Yes, he acquiesced, eyeing the picture of Hiruzen now hanging on the wall. Strange how life turns out in the end, isn't it? He sent me to war thinking of it as my tomb, yet in the end it was his office that killed him, while I outlived him. He named you as his successor, after selecting Orochimaru first. Tsunade replied softly. Danzo didn't say a word for a moment, before inclining his head to the side. And why did you not choose him then? Orochimaru? S-rank missing nin of Konoha? As the Hokage? Tsunade said, her voice tinged with disbelief. Hiruzen was seldom wrong in his choices, Danzo said. I am too old for politics, Tsunade. You can keep your hat, if that is your wish. The slug Sannin gazed at him in disbelief. If it weren't for the blood tests, and everything else that points to the fact that you are Danzo Shimura of Konoha, I'd think you a very bad imposter. I had a mind-opening revelation, Danzo said. One strong enough to shatter my perceived notion of the world. He smiled. Even old dogs can learn new tricks, when pushed to the ground hard enough. And this is one of those? Tsunade asked. No, Danzo shook his head. I'm done doing tricks. I will retire. I think I will enjoy what little time I have left taking tea and talking with what friends I still have. Color me surprised, Tsunade murmured. You should consider doing the same, Danzo said. It is refreshing. It liberates you greatly, to no longer have to suffer from the stress of the position. Even as Danzo departed, Tsunade could only shake her head. She sat down at the Hokage's desk, her hands clasping tightly against each other with her mind lost in thought, when a hawk barged in through the window with a message in its claws. She carefully opened it, letting the bird fly away to return to its nest within the avian tower. The next moment, her hands trembled as she dropped the paper on the desk. She carefully stood up and took a deep, calming breath. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to prevent her from slamming her fist down and cracking apart her workspace, scattering the papers to the wind and cracking the floor. That brat! She screamed for the Umbu. She roared her anger at the Jounin. By the end of the day, the word had already been circulating around all of Konoha. The land of fire was at war. They were at war against the land of lightning. Nameke's Naruto used the momentum of the fist to fly backwards, calling forth a Kage Bunshin to redirect his flight away from the village. Kakuzu followed, running upon a wooden branch that mixed with coral-like excretions. With a well-timed jump, Kakuzu flickered straight against Naruto in midair. The boy smiled, disappearing in a puff of smoke as the real one came down from above, bringing the Rasengan against Kakuzu's back. The missing Nin grunted as he sailed downwards with increasing speed, crashing against the wet ground and forming a crater big enough to be the result of a comet. Naruto spun as he fell, deadening his fall with one more Kage Bunshin before landing inside the wet crater. Water poured copiously down his face and mantle, which he unclasped just as he dropped the hat on the ground nearby. "I'm pretty sure this isn't how it ends," he grumbled, eyeing warily the ground as Kakuzu stood back up. His cloak shredded, a wood armor covered his back and body, actually portraying him as a sort of samurai rather than a shinobi. The Rasengan hadn't even broken through the wooden armor. "I want to know." Kakuzu tapped against his chest. "Do you think you're stronger than Hashirama?" "I don't need to think about it," Naruto whispered. "Either I win and prove my strength, or I lose and you prove yours." Kakuzu's shoulders trembled, before a loud laughter escaped the man's lips. "Exactly! I don't have any other purpose in this battle. I'm not fighting you here because of ideologies or bullshit like power, peace, or money. I'm fighting you, Namikaze, because I want to prove my strength. Be a valid enemy. Be as strong as Hashirama and show me if now I am stronger than him." The ground broke apart as lightning tore through it. In the flash of light from the thunder of the storm, Kakuzu slammed a rock-hardened fist through Naruto's guard. The shattered bones mended with incredible speed, as the Tsuchikage spun before delivering a volley of explosive tags. The tags attached themselves to the Takigakure shinobi, priming and detonating within instants. The entire body turned to rock to protect from the blast, as Naruto slammed a Rasengan straight into the wooden chest armor of the missing Nin, sending him to fly backwards from the concussive force of the impact. The Akatsuki slammed against the ground. Before back-flipping in midair and standing back up on his 2 feet, a coral sword emerged from his right hand, intertwined with the wood from the Mokutan. "Your attacks barely tickle me, brat," Kakuzu growled. "Why did you have to come by now?" Naruto asked. "You could have waited. I was in the middle of grumbling about the unfairness of life." Kakuzu chuckled. "How are you still in the mood for making stupid banter?" 4 hands emerged from the ground, holding still Kakuzu as 2 Naruto Kage Bunshin flickered in from the sides, Rasengan charged in hand. "Anything goes," Naruto replied dryly. The 2 Rasengan chipped away at the stone, before coral and wood extremities emerged from Kakuzu's skin, piercing through all of the clones. "The reason Mokutan is such a prized bloodline is the ability to inflict damage from any area of the body," Kakuzu said. "From the tip of the fingers to the bottom of the feet." With a wave of the hand, wood saban needles departed from the tip of his fingers. A rock wall rose, only to crack against it. "And wouldn't you know," Kakuzu grumbled, "we're getting interrupted. If it isn't Kakuzu of Taki," Oanoki exclaimed, flying down to land right next to Naruto. "Why don't you bring your fight somewhere else?" "I have unfinished business with the boy Oanoki," Kakuzu growled. "Get out of my way or die. Unfortunately, he is the Tsuchikage. I am not letting you have a go at him without first passing through me." With that reply, Oanoki stepped forward. However, Naruto's right hand rose, halting him. "No." Oanoki sucked in air sharply, as if he had just eaten a sour lemon. "What do you mean with that? This is between me and him. I do not require your help," Naruto added, his eyes icy. "Step back, Oanoki of the 2 scales." Oanoki's fists clenched for but a brief moment, before a smirk settled on his lips. I do not know if you possess the will of fire like all Konoha shinobi, but you certainly have the will of stone. I don't want the hat back so soon, however. Try not to die, Tsuchikage. I'll do my best. Naruto grinned. Kakuzu flexed his legs, bringing up his right arm with a wood kunai in hand. You're quite respectable for being a shinobi. I wouldn't have been that fair. I can't expect a hollow man to understand, Naruto replied, taking out his own kunai. You don't have anything to live for right now, do you? Kakuzu snorted. I fight and live for money, brat. And power. I think that gaining power can nicely be added to the pile of things I want, and everything else too, while we're at it. Aren't we greedy now? Naruto clicked his tongue. They stared at each other, either daring the first move. It comes with the bijou, Kakuzu replied, his voice rough and gruff, before slowly pushing his right leg slightly forward, and leaving a dent on the ground. He insists he wants to fight you. I'm all for it, but that's as far as our cooperation goes. Naruto narrowed his eyes. What do you mean with bijou? The three tails? Kakuzu pointed out. He's got a chip on his shoulder and wants to even the odds. I'm along for the ride. Well, at least you know you can count on him. Naruto deadpan. 2 Naruto emerged from the ground, gripping onto Kakuzu's legs to hold him still while a third slammed a Rasengan into his back. The attack proved completely ineffective, before branches of wood departed the man's body to pop the clones one after the other. Distracting me with small talk is good, Kakuzu nodded. But you really need to work on the punch line. The ground shattered. Giant wooden trees erupted around Naruto, spinning their branches and forming a tightly knit cage. Naruto just smiled, before popping into smoke. By the way, Naruto remarked, from the top of the crater. You never really believed I'd fight fairly, right? Kakuzu's eyes widened. He laughed as Oanoki finished his technique, covering the entire crater into the bright light of the dust release. The explosion pulverized the ground, leaving behind a perfectly squared area of dug rock. Yet Kakuzu remained in the middle of it, still alive. He laughed again, as bits and pieces of rock and wood fell down his body, unblemished by the explosion. Oanoki exhaled. It didn't bode well at all. The thunder struck the clouds, a lightning bolt descended from the heavens, striking down on the ground nearby. Naruto licked his lips and closed his eyes, his body turning bright golden. He sped up, disappearing from sight. His left kick shattered through Kakuzu's guard, kicking the man upwards into the skies. His left and right hand punched forth, pulling through the man's ribs as Rasengan appeared directly from within his palms and Kakuzu's body. The man exploded, shattering apart into different shapes as his body turned to dust. Naruto landed back, his chakra cloak burning with the intensity of the sun itself. The water around him evaporated. The mud dried and the air itself grew hotter. The 5 masks of Kakuzu slithered through the ground to merge once more, as a body formed out of his corpse's remains. Kakuzu growled. My turn! Lighting left his palms, thrusting itself forth as lances. Naruto sidestepped them, slowly walking forward once more. His right hand began to shine with a Rasengan formed. The ex-Akatsuki howled, his masks erupting from his back and opening their mouth. Fire, lightning and air came out, igniting a terrible tornado that slammed itself down upon Naruto. The air crackled with electricity. As the ground caved in even more, Oanoki jumped back, admiring with fascination as the boy simply shrugged the technique off, marching forward with utter contempt. The Rasengan in the boy's hand grew. It was then that a tree spear emerged from the ground, covered in coral. Naruto avoided it, disappearing from sight. Above, up in the skies, a vulture screamed as the clouds departed. Naruto held his Rasengan up in the air, with his right hand shining brightly. He jumped down, thrusting the attack forward. Kakuzu roared, lifting his arms as trees made of wood and coral rose to defend him from the blast. Yet they shattered and turned to dust as the Rasengan descended, black in appearance, and silent as the deadliest of nights. It cleanly pushed forth, destroying wood and coral, until it reached straight against Kakuzu's midriff. He didn't feel pain. Kakuzu realized that as the Rasengan cleaved him in half. He wasn't feeling pain. Why? He asked, as his voice came less. Why couldn't he win? Why wasn't he as strong as Hashirama? You're stronger than Hashirama, Naruto replied. But I'm stronger than you. Your scale was off, old man. Kakuzu's eyes closed. He understood. Pathetic. He exploded, his hearts pulverizing into nothingness as the Rasengan detonated outwardly. Naruto gasped, clutching his right arm and chattering his teeth to stem off the pain he felt. In that moment, A powerful strength exploded outwards as the three tails emerged howling and growling, sending Naruto to fly backwards and pummeling him against the ground. Naruto lost his breath, as blood gushed out of his mouth while his back cracked from the strength of the blow. His eyes widened as he tried to hold in the pain, his strength leaving him. Wasn't the Bijou supposed to disappear if the Jinchuriki died? Then again, maybe Kakuzu hadn't been a Jinchuriki to begin with. He had been a host to a parasite, but there had been no seal to hold back the three tails. Just my luck, Naruto hissed. The three tails stood up, its tortoise-like form gigantic to the sight. It easily dwarfed Iwagakure's tallest tower, and yet its face was close to the ground, one of the eyes of its gigantic head missing. The creature sniffed the air deeply, lifting gusts of wind. Naruto's breath hitched as his spine snapped back in place, the pain blinding him for a moment more. A moment that the three tails used to summon forth a spire of coral, to clasp like shackles around Naruto and lift him up, straight in front of his face. I feel you, my brothers. Why does your voice not reach me? Naruto ground his teeth. No, this is different. The Bijou's voice was raucous and deep, anger brimming from it. You are different. The creature's lone eye bored down on Naruto. What are you? Why do you smell of him? If you want some bullshit, Naruto replied, then I'm your man. If you want some truth, then I'm the worst choice you can pick. The corals tightened around him, stronger than anything he had ever broken before. But frankly, I'm the guy who will destroy the world, he roared. Or save it, it depends. I'm still torn between the two things. He grinned. Answer me, Aisabu roared. Why do you smell like the sage? Because I met him, Naruto hissed. Because I talked with him, because I asked him questions and he answered them. You lie. Do you think I need to lie to you? Naruto chuckled. Do you think, even for a second, that I have a need to lie? Please. He rolled his eyes. You doing this? You're giving me time to rest. I'll kick your ass once I free myself, Tebeo. He flinched, biting his lips. Damn it. Did it have to come back now? Databeo? What? It's a nervous tick. Naruto grumbled. You have problems with it? Aisabu remained silent. He closed his only eye. Around them, the shinobi of IWA didn't dare to move. The scene was, in their eyes, surreal. They couldn't hear what the two were saying to each other, so far away they both stood, but there had to be a reason the Bijou hadn't attacked YET.so close to the village. Any attack from the Bijou could wipe Iwagakure out of the maps. Your greed, your desires, do you wish for them to become real? Course I do, Naruto replied. Everyone does, right? It's the reason we fight. You have a very big desire, Jinchuriki. Maybe even bigger than my previous host. What are you trying to say? The sage foretold it. I was a fool not to realize it. Realize what? Giant turtle, you aren't making any sense. My name is Aisabu, and I am the greed of the world. From this moment hence, I shall be no longer. What the hell are you? With those words, the three tails disappeared into thick green chakra, pouring itself through Naruto's chest and breaking apart the skin as if to physically push itself through. Naruto screamed as his body convulsed, before the coral holding him still shattered away. His arms moved to clutch his bleeding chest wound as he could feel his heart drum faster, his skin tingle as the chakra washed over his entire body. Piece by piece he fell down, landing in the crater with a crash as the Aisabu's chakra mixed and filtered through, dispersing within. My greatest desire, the greediest thing, to be back amongst my brothers. Naruto coughed, clutching his throat for a moment before air finally returned. He stood, wobbling on his feet. Slowly, the Kyuubi's chakra began to heal the wound in his chest. Onoki took that moment to reach him, jumping down from his hiding spot and with its Tsuchikage's hat in his hands. I don't know what you did, but that was excellent, kid. He eyed him with worry. What of the three tails? Naruto took a deep breath, before pointing at his chest. Guess I have one more bijou inside of me. I'm going for a nice collection, ain't I the lucky one? He muttered. A moment later, of course, they wouldn't arrive earlier. The Iwagakure Jounin entered the scene. They stopped at the borders of the crater, peeking inside. Thanks for the assist, guys, Naruto exclaimed. He centered himself, catching his breath, before jumping out of the crater and in front of the Jounin commander. I want a list of casualties and damage. Find me the bounty hunter and tell them to cash over Kakuzu's bounty. He turned to another Jounin. You find out what happened to our patrols along the border, and why they let him go past. He then nodded to yet one more. Is the hospital still intact? The Jounin nodded. Good. Naruto began to walk, only for Onoki to near him and cough to get his attention. In his hands he had the hat and the mantle of the Kage. It must have fallen away in the battle, Sachikage-sama. Onoki said calmly, handing it over with a light bow of the head. Naruto nodded silently, taking it reverently with both of his hands before putting it on. His mantle flapped as it landed on his back, while his hat stood firm once more over his head. Right, how can I expect people to follow me if they don't see the hat? Naruto grinned, looking at the Awagakure Jounin who hadn't moved yet, even after his orders. Well? You standing there for long yet, or are you going to follow your orders? The Jounin stiffened for a moment, before falling in line to obey their Tsuchikage, Orochimaru of the Sannin. I want all of them, he said. Sasori looked at him. What? Orochimaru asked, as Sasori's gaze on him remained fixed. All of them? Sasori replied. What about laying low and pinning the blame on leader? He's taking his sweet time. I want chaos, and I want it now. He hummed, taking a few steps forward to touch the cheek of one of the puppets. Automated puppetry, controlled from afar through hosts. He grinned. This is a new, more perfect way of doing battle. I heard the storm is coming, Sasori remarked. How big are we talking about anyway? The entire land, maybe, Orochimaru said. Another great war, fought over scraps of land and fertile fields. You need food to march an army. He whispered to the ear of the puppet. But what if the army needs no food? An all-new type of battle opens up for you. Char the ground, salt the fields, burn the farmers. He licked his lips. No rules, but corpses, a field of corpses, which stretches wide across the landscape. He giggled. Leader will never achieve his weapon plan. Too many conspire against him. Orochimaru grinned. Too many grow thick roots in the shadows of his plans. He is a surprisingly naive child, to think everyone will just follow someone with flashy eyes. Sasori did not reply. He can bring back the dead, the puppeteer pointed out. I can do that too, Orochimaru said. I can bring back even stronger dead than before. The Yondaime, the Sandaime, the Nidaime, and the very first Hokage can be called at a moment's notice. I can summon them here, if I so wished. I could summon all of the most powerful shinobi in the land that lived and died to fight for my cause, to fight for me, but I won't. He chuckled. I don't need to. The world will burn by itself, and I will walk among its ashes. He sighed. The darkness returns home hoping for a life of light. His sins, however, will be paid in full. He closed his eyes. Sometimes I worry, sometimes I think my mind is playing me horrible tricks, but I know it's not the truth. I know how this all is going to end, with blood, death, and tears. Sasori stared quietly. I even changed body, he said, slowly gripping his face mask and ripping it apart, to reveal Tobi's face beneath it. His eyes glinted, as Sasori remained impassive. Orochimaru had tested the puppeteer's loyalty, and they both knew it. You can tell me the truth, of course. Sasori inclined his head to the side. The army is complete. Temujin broke a long while ago. Leader Sama came by, but I told him the army wasn't complete yet. He gruffly twitched a finger of his puppet, a chakra string sailing in the air and attaching itself to a puppet on the wall. The puppet clicked and the wall spun, to reveal behind it long rows of armored figures. Puppets, thick, sturdy like samurai, and lethal like shinobi, neatly arranged in lines stood still, their armors glinting off in eerie light. Poison dripped down their blades in their frame, as their empty and glassy eyes remained downcast. Now the question is, Sasori said. What are you going to do with this army, Orochimaru? I want to watch the world end, Sasori. Can you believe it? I want to see it end. I want this cycle to snap and tear itself asunder until nothing remains at all. I want destruction, pure and unblemished. I want death, pain and misery to be the very last thought in the mind of the destroyers of this world, and I want to watch. I want to see how they react when they realize their world is dead, forevermore dead and decayed. The Sannin chuckled then. I want this world of despair to end. I will have it end, and soon, oh so soon. He exhaled. Just one last push, he said, opening a scroll on a nearby table. One last push. A kunai slammed down on the map, and everything will fall in place. Everyone will fall in line. Blood will spray across the land like a thick river. Sasori remained quiet, letting Orochimaru talk. Attack Iwagakure with Suna puppeteers. Orochimaru whispered. And IWA will answer the battle cry. Konoha will shatter its alliance with Suna, trying to save face, and when it does, because it will do it, Kiri will strike at a chance of an bounty in the coast of Suna. Konoha will not intervene, leaving Suna to be eaten alive by its enemies. Orochimaru licked his lips, his fingers tracing the map. Beautiful, beautiful devastation will follow as Konoha will intervene in the north, to try to fend off the militaristic exploits of the new Tsuchikage. It will not work, of course, and when news will come back of whom the Tsuchikage is, war will erupt at home too, stronger and hotter than ever before. I see, Sasori said. I don't care, he added. All I want is to see my creations work. You know that. Yes. Orochimaru pouted. I know that. You're a bore sometimes, Sasori. You could at least try to look interested in the end of the world as we know it. Why? Sasori replied, inclining his head to the side. My puppets will go down in history forever, as those who ended history itself. When you put it that way, Orochimaru replied. I knew there was a reason I liked you, Sasori. You're as mad as me, sometimes. You have no idea. His voice filled with thick sarcasm. How much that makes me happy to hear, Orochimaru. Orochimaru chuckled. I wonder. He tapped the map with his long fingers. How long are you going to make me wait, my beautiful bomb? Tick-tock, tick-tock, he whispered, his face close to the map. Blow up, my little bomb. He slowly rubbed the piece of the map in question. Blow up. The piece of map that enthralled him so much was a small, compact plot of land, the name written upon it revealing the most important characteristic of the land, the moon-shaped form. Kabuto Yakushi looked out from the window of one of the richest casinos within the country. The people outside were smiling and drunkenly walking the street, their money-filled purses and wallets ready to be emptied, while he remained silently inside the office of the casino's director. The land of the moon was a rich country. It had also been peaceful for a long time. All of that had changed, but it was up to debate in which direction the wind was now blowing. The old king was gone, and the new one, if possible, was even more depraved than the old one. At least the old king had a heart of sorts, and acted like a child. Yet Orochimaru loved to make deals with wicked men, because they were always so obvious and always followed through the same order of things before things turned sour. You just needed to know when you had overstayed your welcome, and when it was time to deliver a kunai to the ribs in return for the dagger poising to strike. Yakushi-sama, a beautiful woman, with raven hair and a bright smile, cooed from the bed. Will you not come to bed? There were benefits in being Orochimaru's right-hand man. He didn't like the pleasures of the flesh, but as long as it made shabadaba, what sort of name was that? Complacent, then it was fine. It was then that he saw a flicker, far off the sea. It rose up like a snake of fire, before disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Has the time already run its course? Has the sand finished dripping down the hourglass? Kabuto asked, smiling softly as he brought his glasses back to the top of his nose's bridge. Yakushi-sama, your words are so deep tonight, you can drop the act, and the henge, Kabuto added. I saw through you from the beginning. The woman's smile remained plastered on her face for a moment more, before the covers fluttered in the air as kunai sailed beneath them. Kabuto jumped backwards, crashing through the window and landing down on the nearby rooftop, twisting his body to deflect the flying daggers. The woman pursued him, her entire appearance now changed, no longer altered by the henge. She wore a long shaggy white-haired wig and had light pink-colored eyes. Around her, rose petals flew in the air, drowning the rooftop in crimson colors. The overpowering smell of her perfume was intoxicating, and yet Kabuto kept up his predator-like smile. You might want to try something different, he acquiesced, flickering away and slamming his fist seemingly in the empty air near him. Petals of roses emerged where he struck, revealing behind them the pained face of the kunoichi. I had all the time to steal a sample of your poison, synthesize an antidote, and use it. Your tricks hold no sway over me. Her hands gripped his arm trying to break it, but Kabuto smiled, rearranging his bones as the woman ended up gripping something the consistency of clay, before the left hand came against the side of her head, rupturing the veins in her temple and throwing her on the ground like a ragged doll, dead. Readjusting his arm, Kabuto sighed. Pity, he acquiesced. She was pretty. He looked around, bringing his glasses back up from the ridge of his nose. He smiled. Still, I can always put her corpse to good use. He didn't need a trigger for the box, after all. Opening a scroll, he sealed the corpse within before pocketing the parchment once more. What mattered if said trigger wasn't properly alive anyway? Kabuto flickered away from the rooftop, rushing across the city quietly as the smile on his face grew wider. He could feel his blood rush to his head. As his breathing increased, he would activate the box, for Orochimaru-sama. He would find out his true self then, and with it, he would finally be someone. Naruto Namake's Kakuzu's attack had made surprisingly little damage, and victims. Iwabikure was a village of shinobi, differently from Konoha, who also held a civilian population. Ninja, who all knew how to dig in the earth if there was an inkling of danger, were tougher to kill than civilians. He grinned as he walked down the streets of Iwa, the people bowing at his passage and calling him Tsuchikage-sama. It was so different from the looks he had received at first. It surprised him. He hadn't done anything noteworthy, but apparently defeating Kakuzu and making the three tails disappear had been enough. He stepped through the streets, reaching for the training grounds. Kurwashi, Akaishi, and Sakagen! He exclaimed as he entered the training ground. His three genin appeared a moment later. He clapped his hands once, excitedly. My dear students, I have a great piece of news for you all. The trio of genin from Iwa looked at him with doubt in their eyes. I know you feel hurt we didn't spend much time together, Naruto continued, but I am going to rectify this. The trio had a bad feeling. We're going to broker peace dealings between Kumo and Kiri, without both sides knowing it. Naruto's smile intensified as the trio looked at their teacher in dread. I just got great news on what both sides want after all, and for that, I need some escorts to the Land of Iron to call for yet another Kage meeting. You're mad, Kurwashi blurted out. Oh no. Naruto's smile looked positively wicked, making all three shudder. I'm just a man with a vision, that's all. And now, he knew of Pain's greed too. Finally, his enemy had a desire, and he wasn't the only one. He would exploit them all, from the first to the very last. The sage, the toads, the prophecy, he had to save the world or destroy it. But which of the two options actually meant happiness for those he cherished? To save a rotten world, did that make him a hero? To tear apart and destroy the shinobi system, bringing forth peace in its stead, did that make him a monster, a demon, and an instrument of destruction? Sometimes, things needed destruction, in order for other things to grow. A ground had to burn, for the weeds to leave. He looked up to the bright sky, and for once, he dared to hope. He would end this. He would end everything. He was the only one who could, after all. Chapter 60. The Spark Burning the Gunpowder. The thick forest borders between Kumogakure and Konohagakure had crimson dirt for soil now, as battles and skirmishes waged between the two sides incessantly. The corpses hung from the trees by their entrails, more times than not savagely beaten to a pulp to discourage further infiltrations or butchered to shock the would-be attackers. A group of Kumogakure infiltrators had just made it past the usual patrols of Konoha shinobi, when they had stumbled upon her. They had thought it a legend. Unfortunately, it was the truth. I can hear you. A girl's voice sang in the thick of the trees. I can smell you. There was a girlish giggle. The Kumo shinobi tensed. I can sense you. The voice sang gently. I can see you. They remained silent. There was no way someone could break through the hiding technique they all had mastered. It was flawless. No sound, no air, no smell, nothing escaped it. Are you here, my little praise? The voice mocked them. There was no other reason for it. The voice wasn't real, just a genjutsu to scare them out. A bush shuddered near their positions. They didn't move. 5 grown-up shinobi of Cloud refused to move. Are you here, my little praise? Are you here? Come on out and play. I just want to play. The voice was shrill, like a child's. I want to play. It whined. Oh, are we playing already? Hide and seek? Yes, this is hide and seek. The giggle grew. Are you good boys or bad boys? The sound of lips lit came too close for their tastes. It was as if the ninja was just next to them, whispering in their ears. One of them drew his breath. There was a gurgle. The rest of the group dispersed. Don't run away! I just want to play, the voice screamed after them, after their backs, as one of the grown-up shinobi of Cloud screamed in fear as a kunai struck him through the back, poking all the way out of his chest, before bending his ribs backwards. The last thing he saw was of green eyes and mottled green and pink hair, smiling down on him. The second shinobi rushed for the trees, but his neck caught upon a wire and his head rolled without the rest of his body afterwards. The blood spraying the trunks and the leaves. The third ninja cracked the ground with a technique, trying to escape by digging. A meter later, and he uncovered a bundle of explosive tags primed to detonate. The explosion came out dull, without much of a bang. Yet the ground seeped through blood. One little piglet went to the market, the girlish voice sang. And then I butchered him. The voice screamed as the fourth ninja shrieked, his entrails suddenly ripped out of his stomach by wicked-looking hooks, made of thin, transparent glass. And the fifth little piglet, Sakura sang. I did something to him, didn't I? She grinned as she slowly prowled down from the topmost branch, slowly curling her hand near the cheek of the shinobi, held firmly still by two tigers, who had the man's arms in their maws. You mad bitch! The Kumo shinobi screamed. Shh! Sakura said, bringing an index to the man's lips. I want to know where your main forces are, my little darling. She grinned. And if you won't tell me. She took out a pair of rusty scissors. I'll find out. Are you familiar with Eeny Meeny Miny Mo? Catch a tiger by the toe? The man began to sweat. If it roars, let it go. Sakura continued, gripping on one of the man's legs. Eeny Meeny Miny Mo. The man screamed as scissors cut through one of his toes, while the trashing just made the firm grip of the tiger's teeth harder. I'll tell you nothing. I'm a shinobi of Kumo and I'll tell you nothing. Oh, but I don't really care. Sakura replied with a bright smile. Don't tell me, it will be funnier. I'll just enjoy my game, and then wait for the Yamanaka to come and read your mind. I don't need to torture you. I actually shouldn't, but you see, I'm bored. The shinobi's eyes widened. He began to weep. Sakura just smiled. She loved toying with her prey. 2 hours later, the Umbu support team took into custody an already cracked shinobi of Kumo, who was pleading for his death, for anything better than staying a single minute more in the presence of that mad woman with pink hair. Sakura waved goodbye at her playmate, before turning her grin to her captain. The purple-haired woman wore her usual trench coat and mesh shirt, but her right eye stood beneath an eye patch, black and with a crimson symbol of Konoha etched on it. Anko whistled in appreciation. That was a decent job, brat. I wanted to play with him more. Sakura pouted. There's plenty more where he came from. Anko replied, gesturing in a direction with her hand. With a nod, Sakura followed the elder Kunoichi across the branches. So, the big boss is pissed. When isn't she pissed? She's incontinent and needs a nappy change. Sakura retorted. Sure, brat, say that to her face. Anko snickered. But still, you've been acting all over the place. She told me to rein you in. I'm reined in perfectly. Sakura hissed back. If she can't do her job or doesn't have shinobi that can do their job, what is the problem? She took my mask, didn't she? Then what's the problem? She took your mask because she tried to find a peace with Kumo by killing your wolf persona. It didn't work, of course. Now, are you going to cooperate or what? I'm cooperating. Konoha comes first, and less Kumo shinobi means more Konoha shinobi. Anko sighed. That's a strange way of putting it. It's the balance of the jungle. Kill tigers, less tigers, more food for the giant snakes because there are less tigers. Time you stop flying solo, brat. Somehow, the number of civilian casualties increases wherever you end up assigned. You can understand Big Jugs wants a word. I know nothing about that. Sakura said. I don't like playing with civilians. They break too easily, and cry too much. They look at you with fear like it's your fault they're weak, like it's your fault they're scared of you who is strong, like it's your fault they're going to die because they're pathetic excuses of human flesh that should have trained more beforehand. The branch she kicked off from broke, as Sakura slammed her right fist against the sides of a nearby trunk, pulverizing it as she went by. Try to avoid announcing our presence, brat. Anko deadpanned. There still might be enemies around. I'd smell them out. Sakura replied. Anko didn't add anything to the discussion after that. The advanced outpost at the border with Kumo was bustling with activity. Its green and brown mottled walls and leaf coverings hid it from sight in the middle of a light outcrop of trees. There were a few tents and a couple of tables, as well as a dozen of shinobi standing guard. Wolf reporting in. Sakura replied, waving cheerfully at the gate guard. Add 5 to my count, Bird-chan. She added next, giving the middle finger to a bird-masked operative, who gave back a stiff nod and moved to a chalkboard near him. The Umbu traced 5 vertical lines next to the kanji wolf. The count already exceeded 50. Sakura walked with her hands behind her back, pushing out her chest and delivering grins everywhere she went. Shouldn't you have a mask on, brat? Anko asked. I don't need to hide my ugly face like you, Cyclops. Ouch, I prefer being called Captain, makes me feel all pirate. Why? Bitch sounds better. Sure. Anko rolled her eye. At least I'm living the good life. What about you? Still have webs down there? It's none of your business. Sakura hissed out, moving a lock of her hair behind her right ear. They stepped inside a tent, where the Hokage was growling loud curses in the direction of a map of the elemental countries. I don't have the fucking time to do this, Tsunade muttered. Nude Tsuchikage or not, he's asking us to let the Raikage pass us by with an escort. That is preposterous, Koharu hissed. The advisor held her arms hidden within her long sleeves, her face grave and stern. Why the old coot was near the front line was something Sakura didn't care to know, but it was strange. He wants us to collect him. What are we, his lapdogs? It is obvious the Raikage wouldn't leave the front lines unguarded. Hamura spoke next. By taking you together with him, I'd have to go at least a month with the Raikage by my side. Tsunade hissed back in disbelief. She crumpled the letter in her hands. The deviations alone to ensure fairness are, and there's the problem that both you and the Raikage would have to go through a Wagakure to reach the land of iron. It is hardly fair when an ambush might be the plan of the Tsuchikage, Koharu pointed out. If the Tsuchikage's so much a stickler for peace, why doesn't he come around? Hamura suggested. Send him a reply stating to meet at the front lines. We can call the Kazekage over here, get the Mizukage and the Raikage to meet, and we should call on to Mifune to act as an impartial judge. Tsunade finished. We'll have to allow an escort if the Tsuchikage's going to move. Why should we? Koharu asked. If he wants peace this strongly, he can come by himself. Because we don't need a war, Tsunade replied. We aren't at full strength, and the Kazekage has yet to come through with his promised troops. I'm not going to risk it without the certainty of victory. The Mizukage's going to be pushing for the war to keep going. With us on their side, they can keep Kumo from resupplying through the land routes. That's preposterous, Hamura said. We can, for once, avenge the losses of the last war. We can pay them back for the Hyuga accident. And you'd rather play the hand of this Tsuchikage? He didn't even write his name. For all we know, it's just Oinoki's senility finally taking him. Koharu added. Wolf reporting for duty. Sakura trilled aloud a moment later, bringing her right hand up. If I need to come by later, just whistle and I'll be here like a faithful lapdog. Tsunade exhaled. Brat, she grumbled. How rude, Koharu said, frowning at the sight of Sakura. Shouldn't you be wearing a mask? I want the people I killed to die watching a smile. Sakura replied with a bright, cheerful smile. Smiling makes people lower their defenses. Yes, Anko chuckled. That's my pupil all right. You called, Hokage-sama? I know I'm going to regret this, Tsunade said while massaging her temples. But right now, I don't need more headaches. She gestured at Sakura. You've been slaughtering Kumogakure civilians and shinobi with impunity. And while I do not care about the latter, the first is something no shinobi worth his salt would ever do. I'm sending you to the land of iron to deliver a message to Mifune, and wait for a reply from the Tsuchikage. Sakura clenched her fists, but nodded stiffly. You're coming with me to Kirigakure. Tsunade added next, looking at Anko. We'll deal with the Mizukage. Yes, sir. Anko saluted militarily. Sakura, Tsunade said last, turning to gaze at the younger Kunoichi. Don't mess this up. Sakura didn't reply. She just grinned. Naruto Namake's Kawashi, Akaishi and Sakagen were slow. They were slow like tortoises, or slugs. They did try their best to keep up with him, but then again he had wanted his genin as escorts rather than a jounin or umbuwan. He could pretty much defend himself with ease, and even if the worst happened, he could just use the Haration to bring himself and his students away. Akaishi grumbled a bit, scratching the side of her head and taking a deep breath. The air tastes strange, she pointed out. We're passing close by the border with Konoha, Naruto remarked, pointing at a bunch of trees a bit far away. You smell tree sap. It's a common tracking technique. If you trespass the border and get stuck with some of it, there isn't an Inuzuka who won't find you. Is it safe? Asked Kawashi, his voice soft. What if they ambush us? They won't, Naruto replied. I sent them a letter, and they sent one back. Mifune will be waiting for us at the border with iron and a Konoha shinobi, and then we'll pass by together through the land of fire. I don't like it, Kawashi said again. Why do we have to go through the land of fire? Couldn't we take a detour by sea? The pirate troubles have grown out of hand throughout the seas, with both Kumo's and Kiri's navy busy killing each other. Naruto replied, wearily massaging his temples as he made another jump across the rough landscape of rocks. And Mifune will guarantee for us all. I'm taking you little genin because I'm sure they won't object to 3 itsy bitsy tiny genin who aren't as bad as big menacing jounin or umbu. Fantastic, Sekhagen stated. The bitter sarcasm in his voice met a hummed agreement of Naruto. Exactly, exclaimed the Tsuchikage. But don't worry, don't think I chose you 3 because as genin, even if captured you don't know many secrets of Iwagakure. Naruto grinned. I didn't choose you for that reason. Really? Kawashi asked. That's how I sold the idea to Onoki. Naruto said, nodding sagely. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have been fine with it otherwise. Still, don't you worry, they won't capture you, and if they try, I'll be there to stop them. Tsuchikage-sama, Akaishi said. Even if you had chosen us as sacrificial pawns, we would have obeyed all the same. We are shinobi of Iwagakure. We don't care as long as our sacrifice benefits the village. Naruto sighed, his head hung between his shoulders. Somehow I knew one of you would say something like this. He shook his head. Do you know what the problem is with noble sacrifices? It's that they're stupid. If you need to sacrifice yourself to obtain something, then you've done something stupid beforehand. If you plan from the very beginning, you can avoid stupidity along the way. Sometimes there is no choice. Sekhagen shot back. There is always a choice, Naruto replied. The right answer, Sekhagen, is that there are always consequences. Whether the choice brings forth good or bad consequences is what we choose. No one can force another to do something they, themselves, refuse to do. Orders are absolute, but you can refuse them and die in your refusal. Naruto said right back. Or go to prison, or be punished, but the one who goes through with the order is you. If you stay your hand, you choose that. If you obey, you choose that. Events surrounding you might make you believe you have to follow through, but that's a lie. Only you can order yourself around. If you say so, Tsuchikage-sama, Sekhagen replied. That's how it is, Teba. Oh, for the love of all that is ramen, he snarled, grumbling. To think I practiced hard to get that tick under control. He scratched the back of his head. We're nearly there. Can you all act the part of lovable and huggable pillows of joy and bundles of fluff? Act cute enough and I'm sure they'll let their defenses down enough not to full-body search you. Akaishi actually blushed at those words, before clenching her fists. Cute. Yes. Naruto grinned. Cute. It's not that hard, right? Give me a smile, the 3 of you. Sekhagen's smile seemed to have come out of a horror novel, with the way its edges morphed into a vicious and feral grin. Kawashi managed a timid one. Akaishi's lips twitched as she strained herself to manage something even remotely similar to one. All right, Kawashi, you're in charge of smiling and acting all cute. Sekhagen, don't you dare smile in front of a mirror. Who knows what might happen after it breaks? And Akaishi, keep up working on it. Imagine wearing a frilly dress, a gown, or something bright pink. Akaishi breathed in deeply. She was in control of her emotions. She knew she could not murder the Tsuchikage for telling her to become cute, although, when she got her turn cooking dinner, she would ensure enough spices into his plate to make him think twice about asking something like that again. The next moment, she blinked out as a kunoichi of IWA. She had to obey orders of her superiors, but sticking with the Tsuchikage and following his strange antics made her wish for retaliation? She shook her head. She kept shaking it firmly even as she ended up hitting straight against her Kage's back, since the rest of the team had stopped. Sorry, Tsuchikage-sama, she whispered. Naruto raised his right hand palm backwards. Stay on your guard, he muttered. I can feel somethings. Naruto grimaced a moment later, his eyes clouding. Stay here, he said. And whatever happens, don't retaliate. The 3 genin of his frown, but obeyed as Naruto went through the Kage Bunshin motions, letting one of his shadow clones move forward. A few minutes later, and an earthquake shook the ground. It lasted only a second, but Naruto winced. Naruto! A snarling voice filled with anger and grief howled as a pink blur charged towards them. Naruto sidestepped the first blow, bringing up his right hand to parry a lateral strike. Sakura's kick came up for his face next, the girl using her hands on the ground to increase the strength of her leg blows. He tightly gripped onto it, blocking her. His mantle flapped in the wind as Sakura screamed incoherently, twisting her body to an impossible degree and forcing Naruto to let her go, or break her leg. Sakura flipped backwards, her right hand crunching the ground as she flexed her legs readying for another charge. She bit her left thumb, slamming it on the ground. The puff of smoke that announced the summoning technique dissipated within an instant, as Sakura charged ahead, right hand palming a kunai, on the back of a giant tiger with steel fangs. The tiger bit down hard on Naruto's shoulder, as the boy didn't move a single inch from the onslaught. Blood sprayed out thickly, falling on the ground. The tiger growled, the powerful howl through its throat reverberating across its entire body as Sakura jumped down from the beast, her kunai slamming home against Naruto's left side to puncture his lung. Yet that Suchikage of IWA did not move. Naruto flexed his right shoulder, and as coral emerged from within it, the teeth of the tiger shattered and the beast disappeared in smoke. His right arm slowly came up, smoke coming out of his body as the wounds regenerated to a close. Sakura had tears running down her cheeks, her shoulders quivering. She was sniffling and sobbing, while her hands trembled. There was blood on her hands, there was blood on her body, and there was blood in her hair. She tensed as Naruto's arms came slowly up, to surround and hug her firmly, even as the kunai dug itself more into his skin and body. "Sakura," he said. She shivered and cried. She didn't know what to say or do. "Sakura," he said again kindly. "It's all right." He was warm, and not just because of the blood pooling out of the wound. He wasn't dead. She had known, deep down, that he wouldn't be dead, and she had attacked him, because traitors of Konoha have to be killed on sight. She had struck. He had swatted her attacks away, as if they meant nothing, and then, he hugged her. She could feel the strength of his arms around her, the way his breathing was even. She was sure she had punctured a lung, her kunai had horrible poisons on its blade, and yet, he was still standing, he was hugging her. Her face pressed deeply against the base of his neck, crying and sniffling as she opened her mouth and bit down on his throat hard. Blood sprayed out of the open wound, covering her face in the sticky crimson color of his blood, of Naruto's blood. Yet he didn't stop hugging her, and the skin regenerated in front of her eyes. She bit again. She chewed on the flesh until the white of the collarbone beneath showed. She dug her teeth into his muscles and tore them, and yet they regrew. She was a sloppy mess of blood and bits of flesh by the time she stopped. She couldn't kill him. Her instincts were howling at her to kill him, but she couldn't. She was too weak to kill him. She felt relief. Naruto was an enemy of Konoha. Why was she relieved she couldn't kill him? It was wrong. She had to kill the enemies of her village. She had to. It was the only way to prove her existence. It was the value of her worth. She had to kill in order to be her. Her wails and cries grew like those of a sobbing child. Her legs gave way as she fell down on her knees on the ground. Naruto knelt with her, still holding her in a firm hug. "Naruto!" Sakura whimpered, as if calling his name could help her. "Naruto!" "I'm here," he replied. "I'm here, Sakura." His hands gently took the sides of her face, and as he looked at her with a sad expression, he smiled softly. "It's been so long, hasn't it?" Sakura bitterly laughed. I thought you were dead." Naruto raised his right eyebrow, a grin spreading on his face. "You know I'm tough to kill, right?" "Yeah, but they put your name on the tombstone and all. I had to remove it, and then they said all those horrible things about you being dead, or a traitor if not, and you're a traitor so I should kill you but I can't, and—" She wept, her words incoherent. "Well, Sakura," Naruto said, "if you want to kill me, you'll need to do more than that." Sakura wiped the blood and the tears out of her face with the back of her gloved hand, nodding softly towards him. "Suchikage-sama?" Sekhagen asked, warily looking at the scene. "Oh, right." He blinked. "These are my genin, Sakura. Sekhagen, Kurwashi and Akaishi." He gestured to each of them with his left hand. "And also my escorts." Sakura warily looked at the three, before turning her gaze back towards Naruto. "You have a lot of things to explain. And I promise I will, maybe one day," Naruto replied. He brought his left index finger up to shut Sakura's lips. "But not today, Sakura. We should head back to Mifune," Sakura said softly. "I kind of left him there." Naruto chuckled. Sakura's hair was not only bright pink and dark green now, but also mottled with the red of his drying blood. Still, He took a sniff of it, inhaling its scent deeply. Sakura blushed, before stabbing a saban needle into his kidney. Naruto coughed, as the needle emerged from his skin a moment later, the wound closing behind it. Sorry, Sakura said sheepishly. Something tells me it's going to be a habit of yours from now on. Naruto muttered, shaking his head. Kabuto Yakushi. The blood pooled through the streets of the burning town. The great beast of the box devoured and feasted upon the screaming people as if they were candy, killing them all and leaving none behind. It was an instrument of death and destruction. It was a perfect machine. Maybe it was even stronger than the one planned by his master. He didn't no doubt. A raspy chuckle made him narrow his eyes, coming from a voice he strained to recognize. He turned his head briefly, and then smiled back. Orochimaru-sama. This is perfect. Orochimaru acquiesced. Truly perfect, he added, taking in the screams of pain and fear of the villagers trying to escape. They stood on a nearby hill, overlooking the capital of the Land of the Moon. I used the Edo Tensei body to start the box of ultimate bliss, Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto said. I can close it from anywhere I wish, as long as I end the technique. Orochimaru's eyes glinted with approval. It's been so long, he remarked. How have you been, Kabuto? Kabuto bristled, his right hand's fingers drumming against the side of his jacket. I have been well, Orochimaru-sama. I am glad, Orochimaru replied with a knowing nod. What's the problem, then? Are we not going to reclaim the Uchiha's biological material? You are worried about this still? Orochimaru raised his right eyebrow, an amused expression on his face. In the background, a building crumbled to the ground, lifting clouds of dust and fire. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto said. Don't worry, Orochimaru replied. He didn't say another word. Kabuto waited as quietly as he had arrived. Orochimaru left. Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto asked to the empty air. There was a heartbeat of silence. Orochimaru-sama? What am I supposed to do now? There was no reply. Orochimaru-sama? The wind blew softly, carrying the thick smell of ashes and charred meat to his nostrils. Orochimaru-sama! What now? He hadn't received new orders. He hadn't been told anything. What did he have to do now? Was there anything else? Something in his orders he had missed? No, he had done as asked, hadn't he? He had freed the creature from the box at the last possible, and that had been all. He was without orders. For the first time in a long while, he was without orders from Orochimaru. It scared him. His skin filled with goosebumps as he slowly looked around like a lost child. Did he have to end the technique now? Did he have to keep it up? There was a twirling noise in the thin air. Orochimaru reappeared from nothingness with a calm look. I nearly forgot, he said, and Kabuto's breathing evened out. Of course, he was still useful to Orochimaru-sama. Of course, Orochimaru-sama would give him orders so that he could be himself, rather than a mere something with no. The sword stuck through his heart. The Kusanagi blade tore him neatly in half. Kabuto's eyes widened in fear and surprise as his upper half fell on the ground. Blood spewed from the wound, his legs still standing upright from the ease of the cut. I'm doing you a favor, Orochimaru said softly. Trust me on this, Kabuto. Orochimaru smiled. But the technique. Kabuto coughed. Exactly, Kabuto. Orochimaru nodded, as a snake slowly emerged from his right sleeve. I cannot risk the technique being interrupted, blocked, disrupted, or otherwise halted. You will have to die. His sword cut through Kabuto's limbs the next moment, as the man looked up to the night sky with his eyes glazing over from the blood loss. Trying to heal his wounds would mean nothing now. Orochimaru would simply cut him up again and again. Orochimaru-sama, he whispered. Who am I? That is an interesting question, Orochimaru replied calmly, watching as his snake began to devour whole Kabuto's body. You are a human being. You have a heart, a chakra system, organs and muscles, bones and soft innards. You have a soul, you have intelligence that goes beyond that of normal animals. But in the end, you are who you wish to be. Who am I, then? Kabuto croaked. Who am I? Kabuto, my dear student. Orochimaru knelt next to the dying boy and gently scratched his head. The Sannin was smiling as he spoke. The answer to that question is obvious, isn't it? What you did up until this moment, what you thought until now, what you said, and created, and killed, and everything else that surrounded you, that nurtured you and grew you, they are all you. You aren't just a name or a tool. You are yourself. You are a product of circumstances, and a result of actions beyond your comprehension, but it doesn't matter any longer. Why doesn't it matter? In death, all become nothingness. Kabuto's eyes turned pale just as the snake's fangs reached his neck, and soon, within the next minutes, the giant snake, the stomach deformed by his meal, already engulfed his body. Orochimaru stood up once more, and gazed at the creature of the box of ultimate bliss. Now you're eternal, he remarked, watching it move further and further away from the village. Go on then. He smiled. Destroy this world. Tear it asunder. Go south, while my armies go north. Rip and destroy everything. Take asunder all that stands in your way. He turned to leave. And when you're done, he finished. What will you do, I wonder? When no life remains, when nothing that needs destruction remains, what will you do? What use is a weapon with no one to wield it, and no one to use against? He stepped through the twirling of the kamui. A useless weapon, rusts. Satoru's giant sphere struck cleanly the overlooking hill where Orochimaru and Kabuto had been a moment before, wiping it out of the map as the black feathered puppet of the box took the skies, roaring and screaming in search for more prey. Mifune shinobi were strange. He always knew that. He even had proof more times than not about their strangeness, but he actually didn't think it was a common shinobi salute to try to kill each other at first sight. Apparently it was the way that Tsuchikage and the Konoha emissary spent the time, mostly the latter trying to kill the former and the former being nigh immune to any damage thrown at him. He wasn't the only one shocked and appalled by it, if the Tsuchikage's escort was of any indication. The samurai contingent that followed them for safety purposes, and to ensure a diplomatic escort, were all trained soldiers, dedicated to the way of the samurai, and even they broke protocol every now and then to wince at the sheer sight of some of the means of death executed. That Tsuchikage was a monster. There was no other way to explain how he could survive all of that and keep on smiling. Still, over time, the attacks became less and less, and when they finally reached the place to hold the diplomatic meeting, it was the Hokage's turn to welcome the Tsuchikage by trying to murder him. Mifune just sighed. Shinobi were strange. Konoha shinobi were stranger still.